Can't wait to read this one. It's amazing. All right, welcome to Table Read Tuesday, one of the greatest films of all time, The Princess Bride. Woo! Classic story, classic characters, and now we got a classic team here. And on my personal screen in the upper left corner is Vicki Dykes. So, Vicki, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vicki Dykes. I'll be playing 4 characters tonight, one of them being Count Rugen. I'm really looking forward to this one. It's one of my favorite movies. So, yeah, we're going to have a blast tonight. Enjoy.
Yes, having a blast. And one of the characters I'm playing is Inigo Montoya. And next we have Don.
I'm Don Lampasone, and I'll be reading some action descriptions to start. I'll also be reading Humperdinck and The King. I think that's going to be the most fun, reading The King.
Elvis, maybe?
Oh.
So, but I love this movie as well. I have to watch it every few years. So.
And Clint.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm going to be playing Wesley, a.k.a. the Man in Black. Fighting for true love, what can I say? Anyways, it's great to be back. Quick shout out to Marvin Likeness again for last week. If you guys didn't see it, that was our contest winner. Thank you so much for volunteering your time. And a special shout out to a Munchkin Pimp and all our friends and family for liking and subscribing. It helps us grow this channel, and we look forward to reading more and more table scripts for everybody. So, hi, we'll see you guys.
And since you mentioned the Marvin 1 in a Trillion script, we also did a side interview with him that we'll add to the YouTube channel. And so once we edit in the behind the scenes of the table read. So that's coming too. Next we have Heather Lee Cameron.
Hi, my name is Heather Lee Cameron. I love The Princess Bride, and I will be playing the mother and Fezzik.
Awesome. And next, Petra Stedman, Buttercup. Oh, sorry.
Hello.
I'm just reading.
Right. Yeah, massive fan of this movie. Love it. Watch it pretty much anytime I see that it's on. And if not, I throw in my Cliffs of Insanity special edition version because I love it that much. Have the Buttercup hair, which is, I never really need a costume. I'm just always ready to go. So plus it's like the most eminently quotable movie ever. So this is going to be a blast.
Mm-hmm. When we're done, I want to hear more of the differences between that Cliffs of Insanity version and the one we read and the one that was shown in the theaters and stuff. Save it for there, but I want to hear it afterwards. Next, we have Angelina Peterson.
Hello, I am going to be playing the grandmother, grandfather, but as the grandmother, and a couple others, Vizzini and the clergyman.
Awesome. And last but absolutely certainly not least, Toni Flora.
Hello. Thank you again for bringing me in on this. I am doing narration at the end, the second half of the screenplay, as well as the Queen.
All right. Then on that note, I say, let us begin. Don, when you're ready.
Okay. The Princess Bride, screenplay by William Goldman from his novel. Revised final draft May 3rd, 1986. Director Rob Reiner, producer Andy Scheinman. Fade in. Exterior, a city street day. Camera tracks down a snow-covered New York City street. We hold on a typical brownstone. As we push in on an upstairs bedroom window, we hear the sounds of a video game in progress, a video game on a computer screen. As a sick coughing sound is heard, pull back to reveal this kid lying in bed, coughing, pale, one sick cookie. Maybe he's 7 or 8 or 9. He holds a remote in one hand, presses it, and the video game moves a little bit. Then he's hit by another spasm of coughing, puts the remote down. His room is monochromatic, grays and blues, mildly high-tech. We're in the present day, and this is a middle-class house somewhere in the city. Cut to the kid's mother as she enters, goes to him, fluffs his pillows, briefly feels his forehead. She's worried. It doesn't show. During this,
Guess what? Your grandfather's here.
Can't you tell I'm sick?
You are sick. That's why he's here.
He'll pinch my cheek. I hate that.
Maybe he won't.
The kid shoots her an I'm sure look as we cut to the kid's grandfather bursting into the room, kind of rumpled, but the eyes are bright. He has a book tucked under one arm as he immediately goes to the kid, pinches his cheek.
How is the sickie?
The kid gives his mother an I told you so look. The mother ignores it, beats a retreat.
I'll just leave you pals alone.
There's an uncomfortable silence. Then
I brought a special present.
What is it?
grandfather holds up the book. The kid does his best to smile.
A book?
Ah, that's right. When I was your age, television was called books. And this is a very special book. It was one my father used to read to me when I was sick. And I used to read it to your father.
Has it got any sports in it?
Cut to the grandfather, suddenly passionate.
Are you kidding? Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, miracles.
Cut to the two of them as the grandfather sits in a chair by the bed.
Doesn't sound that bad. I'll try to stay awake.
The Princess Bride, Chapter 1. Buttercup was raised on a small farm in the country of Flora.
Dissolved to, as the grandfather reads, we're seeing the story he's reading about, and the monochromatic look of the bedroom is replaced by the dazzling color of the English countryside.
Her favorite pastimes were riding her horse, and tormenting the farm boy who worked there. His name was Wesley. She never called him that. Isn't that a wonderful beginning?
Yeah, great.
Nothing gave Buttercup as much pleasure as ordering Wesley around. Farm boy, you lazy thing, polish my horse's saddle.
Exterior Buttercup's farm day. Buttercup standing holding the reins of her horse, while in the background, Wesley, in the stable doorway, looks at her. Buttercup is in her late teens, doesn't care much about clothes, and she hates brushing her long hair. So she isn't as attractive as she might be, but she's still probably the most beautiful woman in the world.
I want to see my face shining in it by morning.
As you wish.
Wesley is perhaps half a dozen years older than Buttercup, and maybe as handsome as she is beautiful. He gazes at her as she walks by.
As you wish was all he ever gave to her.
Dissolved to Buttercup in her horse's stall. Her tone is softer than it was when she gave the previous order.
Farm boy, I want you to varnish my horse's hooves. Please.
As you wish.
She leaves the stable. His eyes stay on her. She stops, turns. He manages to look away as now her eyes stay on him. Dissolved to interior kitchen, dusk. Buttercup and Wesley in the kitchen. Dusk, her voice, when she speaks, is softer still.
Farm boy, fetch me that bowl. The heavy one, way up high.
As you wish.
Wesley walking away from the farmhouse as Buttercup stares after him.
That day, she was amazed to discover that when he was saying, as you wish, what he meant was this, I love you. And even more amazing was that night when she realized she truly loved him back.
Dissolved to Wesley and Buttercup outside his tiny hovel in the moonlight. They are locked in a passionate kiss.
Hold it, hold it.
Cut to interior of the kid's bedroom.
Is this a trick you're playing on me? Where's the sports? Is this a kissing book?
Wait.
Well, when does it get good?
Keep your shirt on, let me read. Wesley had no money for marriage, so he packed his few belongings and left the farm to seek his fortune across the seas.
Cut to exterior Buttercup's farm, dusk. Wesley and Buttercup, they are standing a few feet apart at the gate of the farm.
It was a very emotional time for Buttercup.
She runs to Wesley, starts to embrace him.
I don't believe this.
I fear I'll never see you again.
Of course you will.
But what if something happens to you?
Hear this now. I will always come for you.
How can you be sure?
This is true love. You think it happens every day?
He smiles at her. She smiles too, throws her arms so tightly around him. Then, as Wesley walks away, Buttercup watches him go.
Wesley didn't reach his destination.
Cut to interior of the kids' room. Oh, sorry.
Where are we?
Gosh.
His ship was attacked.
Down.
Back down.
Down a little, the next page,
There,
top of it.
Right there.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. There you go.
All over the place.
Can you read it now?
Like watching tennis, upside down, sideways. His ship was attacked by the dread pirates, Roberts, who never left captives alive. When Buttercup got the news that Wesley was murdered,
Murdered by pirates is good.
she went into her room and shut the door, and for days she neither slept nor ate.
Cut to interior Buttercup's house. Close up Buttercup, staring out the window.
I will never love again.
Hold on her face, perfect and perfectly sad. Dissolved to exterior main courtyard of Florin. The main courtyard of Florin, replete with townspeople, livestock, and bustling marketplace.
5 years later, the main square of Florence City was filled as never before to hear the announcement of the great Prince Humperdinck's bride-to-be.
Cut to exterior castle balcony. Prince Humperdinck, a man of incredible power and bearing, standing in his royal robes on a castle balcony. 3 others stand behind him, an old couple with crowns, the aging king and queen, and a dark-bearded man who seems the prince's match in strength. This is Count Rugen. My people, a month from now, our country will have its 500th anniversary. On that sundown, I shall marry a lady who was once a commoner like yourselves, but perhaps you will not find her common now. Would you like to meet her? And the answering yes booms like summer thunder. The crowd, and my God, you never saw so many people. Cut to a giant staircase leading to the crowd, and as a figure just begins to become visible, cut to the crowd as they see the figure. We haven't yet. And if there is such a thing as collective action, then this crowd collectively holds its breath. Cut to the staircase as the figure appears. It is Buttercup, and she is resplendent. My people, the Princess Buttercup. She descends the stairs and starts to move amongst the people. Exterior of the balcony. The king says something, but all that comes out is one long mumble. Rugen, did you understand any of that?
Not a syllable.
It doesn't seem possible, but the king's mumblings are getting worse every day.
Your father said it isn't safe for her to move among the people. It's all right. She's so gentle. Who would want to harm her?
I tell you this, no man had better try. Cut to the crowd, and they do a very strange thing. With no instructions at all, they suddenly go to their knees. Great waves of people kneeling, and cut to Buttercup, terribly moved. She stands immobile among her subjects, blinking back tears. Hold on her beauty for a moment. Then cut to interior stable in the castle grounds mid-afternoon. It's the same day, mid-afternoon, and Humperdinck is dressed as before. Buttercup is now in riding clothes, and she leads her horse toward the prince. Then together they start for the stable door. Must you ride? You seem upset.
The king looked so old today. I suppose that upset me.
He has a right to look old, my darling. He has, at last count, 97, and every organ in his body has long since betrayed him. And my father's health is not what's upsetting you. Have I been inattentive? Is that it? I know you don't love me, but I promise you'll grow to love me.
It's not you. It was the crowd. They should not have bowed to me. When you proposed, I was just like them, ordinary. And even though I've gone to royalty school, in my heart, I'm still ordinary. I felt a fraud today, and they should not have bowed down.
Beloved, you are the most beautiful woman in the world. When we marry, you'll be the richest and most powerful as well. Don't expect too much from life.
You're very wise. I must learn to be satisfied with what I have.
She reacts to her lot in life, and as she rides off, cut to Woodlands and Buttercup, barreling along, controlling the beast easily. She's more relaxed. It's later in the day. Cut to a wooded glen close to sundown. Lovely, quiet, deserted. Buttercup suddenly reins in as we cut to three men standing close together in the path. Beyond them can be seen the waters of Flora Channel. The three men are not your everyday commuter types. Standing in front is a tiny man with the most angelic face. He is a Sicilian, and his name is Vizzini. Behind him is a Spaniard, erect and taut as a blade of steel. Sorry. His name is Inigo Montoya. Beside him is a mustache giant. His name is Fezzik.
Muted.
A word, my lady. We are but poor, lost circus performers. Is there a village nearby?
Buttercup, is there a village nearby? Anything?
Buttercup?
She's
I think
frozen.
she's frozen, yeah.
Oh, did we lose Buttercup?
Toni,
There's nothing
you
nearby.
wanna
Not
fill
for
in?
miles.
Then there will be no one to hear you scream.
He nods to the group. Fezzik, who merely reaches over, touches a nerve on Buttercup's neck, and the start of a scream is all she managed. Unconsciousness comes that fast as she starts to fall. Cut to interior isolated spot at the edge of Flora Channel. A sailboat is moored. It's dusk now. Shadows are long. Inigo, the Spaniard, busies himself getting the boat ready. The giant Fezzik carries Buttercup, unconscious, on board. Vizzini rips some tiny pieces of fabric from an army jacket and tucks them along the saddle of Buttercup's horse. There is, about the entire operation, a sense of tremendous skill and precision.
What is that you're ripping?
Fabric from the uniform of an army officer of Gilder.
Who's Gilder?
The country across the sea and the sworn enemy of Florin. Go.
The horse takes off. They start for the boat.
Once the horse reaches the castle, the fabric will make the prince suspect that the Gilderians have abducted his love. When he finds her body dead on the Gilder frontier, his suspicions will be totally confirmed.
You never said anything about killing anyone.
Vizzini hops onto the boat.
I have hired you to help me start a war. It's a prestigious line of work with a long and glorious tradition.
I just don't think it's right, killing an innocent girl.
Am I going mad, or did the word think escape your lips? You were not hired for your brains, you hippopotamatic landmass.
I agree with Fezzik.
Cut to close-up of Vizzini in a fury.
Vesat has spoken. What happened to her is not truly your concern. I will kill her. And remember this. I never, never forget this.
Cut to Inigo and Fezzik as Vizzini advances on them. Nothing shows on Inigo's face, but Fezzik is panicked by Vizzini.
When I found you, you were so slobbering drunk you couldn't buy brandy. And you, friendless, brainless, helpless, hopeless. And you want me to send you back to where you were, unemployed, in Greenland?
I think it's wonderful, Vizzini, what we're doing, war and death. They're just the nicest things.
Vizzini glares at him, then turns, leaves them. He always carries a knapsack, and now he opens it, takes out a piece of cheese. During this, Inigo has gone close to Fezzik, who is very distressed at the insults he just received. As Inigo casts off.
Vizzini, he can fuss.
Fuss. I think he likes to scream at us.
You have a great gift for rhyme.
Yes, some of the time.
As they sail off, dissolve to interior the sailboat.
We shall reach the cliffs by dawn.
Inigo nods, glances back.
Why are you doing that?
Making sure we are not followed.
Believe me, that would be inconceivable. Back to sleep with you. Baggage.
Buttercup's body drains of energy. Her eyelids do not flutter now. Dissolve to interior the ship. The waves are higher. There are more clouds. Hours have passed and there is no movement, except for Inigo, who is staring back behind them.
Stop doing that. We can all relax. It's almost over.
You're sure no one could be after us?
As I told you hours ago, it would be absolutely, totally, and in all other ways inconceivable. No one in Gilder knows what we've done, and no one in Florin could have gotten here so fast. Out of curiosity. Why do you ask?
No reason. It's only I just happened to look behind us and something's there.
And suddenly the three whirl, stare back as they do, cut to the darkness behind them. It's hard to see. The moon is behind clouds now, but the wind whistles and the waves pound, and suddenly it's all gone ominous. Cut to Inigo, Fezzik, and Vizzini squinting back, trying desperately to see. At this moment, they are all holding their breaths. Cut to the darkness behind them, and there's still nothing to be seen. It's still ominous, only now it's eerie too. Then the moon slips through, and Inigo was right. Something is very much there. A sailboat, black, with a great billowing sail, black. It's a good distance behind them, but it's coming like hell, closing the gap. Cut to Inigo, Fezzik, and Vizzini, staring at the other boat.
Probably some local fishermen out for a pleasure cruise at night through eel-infested waters.
And now as a sound comes from their boat, they turn as we cut to Buttercup, diving into the water, starting to swim away. Cut to Vizzini screaming.
Go in! Get after her!
I don't swim.
I only dog paddle.
I can hear her kicking. Veer left.
The moon gone now, darkness again. Cut to Buttercup, still close to the boat, switching from a crawl to a silent breaststroke. The wind dies, and as it does, something new is heard. A not too distant, high-pitched shrieking sound. Buttercup stops suddenly, treads water. Cut to interior boat.
Do you know what that sound is, Highness? Those are the shrieking felis. If you doubt me, just wait. They always grow louder when they're about to feed on human flesh.
Buttercup, treading water, still not far from the boat. The shrieking sounds are getting louder and more terrifying. Buttercup stays silent. Cut to interior of the boat, continuous.
If you swim back now, I promise no harm will come to you. I doubt you will get such an offer from the eels.
Buttercup, and she's a gutsy girl. The shrieking sound is louder still, but she doesn't make a sound. Behind her now, something dark and gigantic slithers past. Cut to Vizzini shouting it out.
I won't warn you again. Call out your position or die.
Cut to Buttercup in the water, and she's scared, sure, petrified. Who wouldn't be? But she makes no reply. And now a shrieking eel has zeroed in on her, and now she sees it a short distance away, circling, starting to close, and Buttercup is frozen, trying not to make a movement of any kind, and the eel slithers closer, and Buttercup knows it now. There's nothing she can do. It's over, all over. And now the eel opens its mouth wide, and it's never made such noise. And as its great jaws are about to clamp down,
she does not get eaten by the eel at this time.
And the second we hear him, cut to into your kid's room, the kid looks the same, pale and weak, but maybe he's gripping the sheets a little too tightly with his hands.
What?
I said the eels don't get her. You look nervous.
I wasn't nervous.
His grandfather says nothing, just waits.
Well, maybe I was a little edgy, but that's not the same thing.
Perhaps I should stop for now.
You can read a little more if you want to. I don't mind.
He grips the sheets again as his grandfather picks up the book. Interior, the boat.
Do you know what that sound is, Highness? Those are the shrieking.
Pass that, Grandpa. You did that already.
A mistake. Forgive me.
A whole series of blurred images whizzing past until suddenly one of them freezes. What's happened, of course, is that the grandfather has flipped forward some pages in the book he's reading. And we're back where we were at the last moment we saw her. Buttercup frozen, the shrieking eel, jaws wide, about to clamp down as we cut to two giant arms reaching down, easily lifting Buttercup free and the other grabbing the eel, pulling back to reveal the boat and Fezzik, Buttercup safe in his giant arms as he deposits her on deck. He then proceeds to rip the giant eel lengthwise in two.
Yuck.
He throws both halves back in the water.
Suppose you think you're brave, don't you?
Only compared to some.
Cut to Inigo pointing behind him.
Look, he's cut our lead in half.
The man in black in his boat almost seems to be flying. Vizzini crying out in triumph.
It doesn't matter. He's too late. See? The cliffs of insanity.
And once he said the name, exterior cliffs of insanity dawn. They rise straight up, sheer from the water, impossibly high. Cut to the two sailboats in the wild race for the cliffs, and the man in black is closing faster than ever, but not fast enough. The lead was too great to overcome. And as with great precision, straight at the cliffs.
We're safe. Only Fezzik is strong enough to go up our way. He'll have to sail around for hours till he finds a harbor.
Buttercup, staring at the cliffs, come closer, assume an even more frightening height. There is much activity going on, all of it swift, expert, economical. Fezzik reaches up along the cliff face, grabs a jutting rock, reaches behind it. Suddenly, there's a thick rope in his hands. He drops back to the boat, gives the rope a freeing swing, and cut to exterior cliffs. The rope goes all the way to the top. Cut to Inigo, hurries to Fezzik and straps a harness to him, then lifts Buttercup and Vizzini in the harness. Finally, he himself gets in the harness. All three now are strapped to the Fezzik like papooses.
Whenever you're ready.
Everyone steady?
If you please.
I'll climb with ease.
Oh, a good one, Fezzik.
And he starts to ascend the rope, carrying them all along with him as he goes.
I hate those stupid rhymes of yours.
They keep Fezzik cheery. They help him with his work.
The man in black sailing in toward the cliffs of insanity, watching as Fezzik rises swiftly through the first moments of dawn. Cut to the top of the cliffs looking down. Fezzik's group is only faintly visible far below. This is the first time we've gotten the real vertigo feeling, and it's a gasper. Cut to Fezzik climbing on. Buttercup is almost out of her mind with fear. Cut to the entire length of the cliffs. Fezzik is moving right along, however high they are. He's already over a third of the way down. Cutting to the man in black, leaping from his ship to the rope, starting to climb. He's impossibly far behind, but the way he goes, you'd think he didn't know that because he is flying up the rope, hand over hand like lightning. Cut to Vizzini and the others.
He's gaining on us.
Inconceivable.
He prods Fezzik, who nods, increases his pace. Cut to the man in black, roaring up the rope, and cut to Longshot, the cliffs. And the man in black is cutting into Fezzik's lead. Cut to Vizzini and the others.
Faster!
I'm sorry. I thought I was going faster.
Cut to the man in black. His arms still work as before. If anything, he is speeded up. Fezzik's lead is smaller and smaller. And cut to the view from the top of the cliffs. Maybe 100 feet for Fezzik to go, maybe more. Cut to Vizzini and the others, and it's getting too close now.
I thought you were supposed to be Colossus. I thought you were this great legendary thing. I thought there was water, but there's not.
The wind is, the air is thin up there at the height of the cliff.
I thought you were this great legendary thing, and yet he gains.
Well, I'm carrying 3 people and he's only got himself and
I do not accept excuses. I'm just going to have to find a new giant. That's all.
don't say that, Vizzini, please.
And his arms begin moving much more slowly. Cut to the man in black, less than 100 feet behind them, and gaining. We can see now that he is masked. Cut to Vizzini and the others.
You shouldn't insult Fezzik.
I had to hire a temperamental strongman.
Fezzik is a good worker.
Worker, not a shirker. Never tardy.
There go those rhymes again.
Cut to Fezzik and Inigo's words are terribly pleasing to him. The hurt that Vizzini put into his eyes is gone. Now the great arms move faster than they've ever gone. And the top of the cliffs of insanity is very close. And the arms keep going, and the top is closer, and the arms move even more quickly until suddenly, at long last, cut to the cliff top as Fezzik makes it. Vizzini leaps off and takes out a knife, begins to cut the rope, which is tied around a great tree, while Inigo helps the princess to her feet, and Fezzik just stands around waiting for someone to tell him to do something. Nearby are some stone ruins. Once they might have been a fort, now they kind of resemble Stonehenge. Cut to the man in black, 75 feet from the top now, maybe less, maybe only 50, and his pace is as dazzling as before. And cut to Vizzini cutting through the last of the last, and cut to the rope, slithering across the ground and out of sight towards the channel, like some great serpent at last going home. Cut to Fezzik standing with Inigo and Buttercup by the cliff edge.
He has very good arms.
Cut to the man in black hanging suspended hundreds of feet in the air, holding to the jagged rocks, desperately trying to cling to life. Cut to Vizzini stunned, running to the others, looking down.
Didn't fall? Inconceivable.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. My God, he's climbing.
Cut to the man in black, and so he is, very slowly. He's picking his way upwards, sometimes a foot at a time, sometimes an inch. Cut to the group at the top, staring down.
Whoever he is, he has obviously seen us with the princess and must therefore die. I need you to carry her. We'll head straight up for the Gilder frontier. Catch up when he's dead.
Inigo nods.
If he falls, fine. If not, the sword.
I'm going to do him left-handed.
You know what? You know what a hurry we're in.
It's only the way I can get any satisfaction. If I use my right, it's over too quickly.
Oh, have it your way.
Fezzik tosses Buttercup over a shoulder, goes to Inigo.
You be careful. People in masks can't be trusted.
Come along, come along.
Fezzik nods, hurries after Vizzini. Cut to Inigo. He watches them depart, then turns, peers down over the cliffs. Cut to the man in black, perhaps 50 feet below, still making his perilously slow way towards the top of the cliffs. From the pace he's able to set, it could take hours. Cut to Inigo. He watches a moment more, then paces, fingers snapping. He is a stout and nervous fellow, and he has never been one for waiting around. Cut to the man in black climbing on. He must be 6 inches closer to the top than when we last saw him. Inigo is watching. Cut to intercut. Inigo walking away, sheathing his sword. His fingers are snapping faster than before in a wild Spanish rhythm. Finally, he goes back to the cliff edge, starting to talk. It's instant death if the man in black falls, but neither gives that possibility much credence. This is our two heroes meeting. They don't know it yet, but that's what it is.
Hello there.
The man in black glances up, kind of grunts.
Slow going?
I don't mean to be rude, but this is not as easy as it looks. So I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't distract me.
Sorry.
The man in black kind of grunts again.
I don't suppose you could speed things up.
If you were so anxious to hurry things, you could lower me a rope or a tree branch or something that find yourself useful.
I could do that, I've got some rope up here, but I don't think you'd accept my help, since I'm only waiting around to kill you.
Yeah, that could put a damper on our relationship.
But I promise, I won't kill you until you reach the top.
Well, that's comforting. But I'm afraid you're just going to have to wait.
I hate waiting. I could give you my word as a Spaniard.
Not good. I've known too many Spaniards.
And he just hangs in space, resting, gathering strength.
Isn't there any way you'll trust me?
Nothing comes to mind.
And on these words, camera zooms into a close-up of Inigo. He raises his right hand high. His eyes blaze. His voice takes on a tone we have not heard before.
I swear on the soul of my father, Domingo Montoya, you will reach the top alive.
Cut to the man in black. There is a pause. Then quietly,
Throw me the rope.
Inigo, he dashes to the giant rock the rope was originally tied to, grabs a small coil of rope, hurries back to the edge as he hurls it over. Cut to the rope. It hangs close to the man in black. He releases the rocks, grabs the rope, hangs helplessly in space a moment, then looks up at Inigo, and Inigo straining, forcing his body away from the cliff edge, and the man in black rising through the early morning light, slowly, steadily. And as the cliff top at last comes within the reach, Inigo, watching as the man in black crawls to safety, then sprawls exhausted on the rough, rocky ground. Inigo comes over and sits on a stone by the man in black.
Thank you.
We'll wait until you're ready.
Again, thank you.
The man in black wears gloves. Inigo stares at them.
I don't mean to pry, but you don't by any chance happen to have 6 fingers on your right hand?
He glances up. The question clearly baffles him.
You always start conversations that way?
My father was slaughtered by a 6-fingered man. He was a great sword maker, my father, and when the 6-fingered man appeared and requested a special sword, my father took the job. He slaved a year before he was done.
His hands with sword to the man in black.
I've never seen its equal.
Close up Inigo. Even now, this still brings pain.
The 6-fingered man returned and demanded it, but at 1/10 his promised price. My father refused. Without a word, the 6-fingered man slashed him through the heart. I loved my father so naturally. I challenged his murderer to a duel, but I failed. The 6-fingered man left me alive, but he gave me this.
Cut to the man in black looking up at Inigo.
How old are you?
I was almost 11, and when I was strong enough, I dedicated my life to the study of fencing, so that the next time we meet, I will not fail. I'll just go up to the 6-fingered man and say, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die."
You've done nothing but study swordplay.
More pursuit than study lately, you see. I can't find him. It's been 20 years now, and I'm starting to lose confidence. I just work for Vizzini to pay the bills. There's not a lot of money in revenge.
Well, I hope you find him someday.
You ready then?
Whether I'm ready or not, you've been more than fair.
You seem a decent fellow. I hate to kill you.
You seem a decent fellow too. I hate to die.
Begin.
And on that word, cut to the two of them. And what we are starting now is one of the 2 greatest sword fights in modern movies. The other one happens later on. And right from the beginning, it looks different because they aren't close to each other. None of that swords crossing and garde garbage. No, what we have here is 2 men, 2 athletes, and they look to be too far away to damage each other. But each time one makes even the tiniest feint, the other counters, and there is silence. And as they start to circle, cut to the man in black's eyes, hidden behind the mask, but bright, and cut to the 6-fingered sword, fainting here, fainting there. and the man in black almost off balance, but he's got it back, and he does. Cut to Inigo's feet, and suddenly they seem to fly as he leaps forward an incredible distance. And while he's in the air, cut to the man in black, jumping brilliantly to one side. And as Inigo flies at him, their swords cross. Then again, and the sound comes so fast, it's almost continual.
You are using Bonetti's defense against me.
I thought it fitting, considering the rocky terrain.
Naturally, you must expect me to attack Capo Ferro.
And he shifts his style now.
Naturally. So I find Tilbot cancels out Capelfero, don't you?
Man in Black retreats before Inigo, but handles Inigo's onslaught without overpowering difficulty. And then suddenly his entire style changes and he is doing the advancing.
Unless the enemy has studied his Agrippa, which I have.
And as he changes styles, the two men flying almost across the rocky terrain, never losing balance, never coming close to stumbling, and the battle rages with incredible finesse. First one and then the other gaining the advantage. And by now, it's clear that this isn't just two athletes going at it. It's a lot more than that. This is two legendary swashbucklers, and they're in their prime. It's Burt Lancaster and the Crimson Pirate battling Errol Flynn in Robin Hood. And then, incredibly, the action begins, going even faster than before as we cut to Inigo. And behind him, drawing closer all the time, is the deadly edge of the cliffs of insanity. Inigo fights and ducks and feints and slashes, and it all works. But not for long, as gradually the man in black keeps the advantage, keeps forcing Inigo back closer and closer to death.
You are wonderful.
Thank you. I've worked hard to become so.
The cliff edge is very close now. He is continually being forced toward it.
I admit, you are better than I am.
Then why are you smiling?
Inches from death, Inigo is, in fact, all smiles.
And what is this?
I am not left-handed.
And he throws the six-fingered sword into his right hand, and immediately the tide of battle turns. Cut to the man in black, stunned, doing everything he can to keep Inigo by the cliff edge, but no use. Slowly at first, he begins to retreat, now faster. Inigo is in control, and the man in black is desperate. Cut to Inigo, and the six-fingered sword is all but invisible now, and he increases his attack. Then suddenly switches styles again, leaps in, and first blood is his. The man in black is bleeding from the wrist. Cut to the giant tree the climbing rope was tied to when the man in black is forced toward it. Cut to Inigo whirling around the tree, striking again, this time at the other wrist of the man in black, drawing another trickle of blood. Cut to the man in black, almost running from the tree, getting out into the clear as Inigo restlessly increases the pressure. Cut to the cliff edge again, and the man in black can't stop Inigo. Nothing can stop Inigo. And in a frenzy, the man in black makes every feint, tries every thrust. Let's go with all he has left, but he fails. Everything fails. He is almost to the cliff edge when he glances back, sees his near fatal position, tries one or two final desperate moves, but they are nothing.
You are amazing.
I have to be after 15 years.
There is one final thing I must tell you.
Tell me.
Neither am I.
And now he changes hands, and at last the battle is fully joined. Cut to Inigo, and to his amazement, he is being forced back. He tries one style, another, but it all comes down to the same thing. The man in black seems to be in control.
Who are you?
No one of consequence.
I must know.
Get used to disappointment.
The man in black moving like lightning, and he thrusts forward, slashes, darts back, all in almost a single movement. And cut to Inigo, stunned, looking at his arm. It is bleeding. Cut to the man in black, and again he thrusts forward faster even than before. And again he slashes, but Inigo, there's never a move anyone masks he doesn't remember. And this time he blocks the slash, slashes out himself with a six-fingered sword. And although the man in black manages to retreat out of range of the blow, the tide of battle has changed again with Inigo back in command as they speed across the rock-filled terrain, dodging and lunging and feinting and tricking, their swords in constant contact. Cut to Inigo's feet, moving with the grace and speed of a great improvisational dancer. Cut to Inigo's sword hand as it flicks the great weapon, and the power in his wrist is tremendous. Cut to the mighty six-fingered sword as the light does its best to keep up with it now at long last. Cut to Inigo's face, and something terrible is written behind his eyes. He has given his all, done everything man can do, tried every style, made every maneuver, but it wasn't enough. And on his face for Ale to see is the realization that he, Inigo Montoya of Spain, is going to lose. Cut to the man in black, moving in for the end now, blocking everything, muzzling everything, and cut to the six-fingered sword, sent flying from Inigo's grip. He stands helplessly, only a moment. Then he drops to his knees, bows his head, shuts his eyes.
Kill me quickly.
I would as soon destroy a stained glass window than an artist like yourself. However, since I can't have you following me either.
And he clunks Inigo's head with his heavy sword handle. Inigo pitches forward unconscious.
Please understand, I have the highest respect.
Close up Vizzini.
Conceivable.
Pull back to reveal Vizzini staring down from a narrow mountain path as far below. The man in black can be seen running. Fezzik, carrying the princess, stands alongside. It's a little later in the morning.
Give her to me. Catch up with us quickly.
What do I do?
Finish him! Finish him! Your way.
Oh, good. My way. Thank you, Vicini. Which way is my way?
A couple of boulders. Nothing gigantic, maybe a yard in diameter. Vizzini points to them. There is a large tree nearby.
Pick up one of those boulders. Move behind the tree.
Vizzini with Fezzik pointing down along the mountain path.
In a few minutes, the man in black will come running around that bend. The minute his reed is in view, his head is in view. Yeah, I got it. I was like, that doesn't work. Hit it with a boulder.
As Vizzini and Buttercup hurry away.
My way's not very sportsmanlike.
He stands motionless in the tree shadow, the boulder cradled easily in his hands as we cut to the man in black racing up the mountain trail. Ahead is a bend in the trail. He sees it, slows, then he stops, listening. Fezzik waiting around the bend. Deep in shadow, he does not move. There's absolutely no sound. Cut to the man in black, satisfied by the silence. He starts forward again, and as he rounds the bend, cut to Fezzik. In the instant the man in black's head comes into view, he steps out, fires the boulder like a rocket, and cut to the man in black, unaware of the boulder until it's too late. He's caught frozen, and the boulder zooming dead into camera, and the man in black, as the boulder misses him by an inch, crashes harmlessly down. Now, Fezzik, he moves into the mountain path. He has picked up the other boulder and holds it lightly.
I did that on purpose. I didn't have to miss.
I believe you. But what happens now?
We face each other as God intended, in a sportsmanlike manner. No tricks, no weapons, skill against skill alone.
You mean you put down your rock and I'll put down my sword and we'll try to kill each other like civilized people?
I can kill you now.
He gets set to throw, but the man in black shakes his head, takes off his sword and scabbard, begins the approach toward the giant.
Frankly, I think the odds are slightly in your favor, fighting in hands.
It's not my fault being the biggest and strongest. I don't even exercise.
He flips the rock away. Cut to exterior of the mountain's path. The mountain path and the two men. The man in black is not now and has never been a shrimp, but it's like he wasn't even there. Fezzik towers over him so much. There is a moment's pause, and then the man in black dives at Fezzik's chest, slams him several tremendous blows in the stomach, twists his arms severely, slips skillfully into a beautifully applied bear hug, and in general makes any number of terrific wrestling moves. Fezzik just stands there, kind of taking in the scenery, Finally, the man in black pushes himself away, stares up at the giant.
Look, are you just fiddling around with me or what?
I wanted you to feel you were doing well. I always hated for people to die embarrassed.
They get set to begin again. Then suddenly cut to Fezzik as he jumps forward with stunning speed for anyone his size and reaches for the man in black, grabs him, and as the man in black slips away, Fezzik reaches again, grabs him again, and as the man in black drops to his knees, spins loose. Fezzik goes right down with him, takes him in both his arms until the man in black twists free, jumps to his feet, panting from the effort.
You're quick.
And a good thing, too.
Why do you wear a mask? Were you disfigured at birth or burned by acid or something like that?
No. I just think it's terribly comfortable. I think everybody will be wearing them in the future.
But to Fezzik, considers this a moment, then attacks. And if he moved quickly last time, this time he is blinding. And as the man in black slips down to avoid the charge, Fezzik moves right with him. Only instead of twisting free and jumping to his feet, the man in black jumps for Fezzik's back. And in a moment, he is riding him, and his arms have Fezzik's throat, locked across Fezzik's windpipe, one in front, one behind. The man in black begins to squeeze tighter.
I just figured out why you're giving me so much trouble.
Fezzik, as he charges towards a huge rock that lines the path, and just as he reaches it, he spins his giant body so that the entire weight of the charge is taken by the man in black. Cut to the man in black, and the power of the charge is terrible, the pain enormous, but he clings his grip at Fezzik's windpipe.
Yeah, yes, it is. Do you think?
Well, I haven't just fought one person in so long now. I've kind of been specializing in groups, battling gangs for local charities, that kind of thing.
Another huge rock on the other side of the paths. Again, Fezzik charges, slower this time, but still a charge. And again, he spins and creams the man in black against the rough boulder. Cut to the man in black, and the punishment is terrible. And for a moment, it seems as if he is going to let go of Fezzik's windpipe and crumble, but he doesn't. He holds on.
Why should that make a difference?
Well, you see, you use different moves when you're fighting half a dozen people than when you've only got one to worry about.
Again, Fezzik slams the man in black against a boulder. Only this time his power has diminished and Fezzik starts to slowly collapse. Cut to Fezzik, and now there isn't much breath coming. Cut to the man in black holding his grip as Fezzik tries to stand. Halfway makes it, but there's no air. Back to his knees, he falls, holds there for a moment, and pitches down to all fours. The man in black increases the pressure. Fezzik tries to crawl, but there's just no air. No air. Fezzik goes to earth and lies still. Cut to Fezzik as the man in black turns him over, puts a hand to Fezzik's heart. It beats. The man in black stands.
I do not envy the headache you will get when you awake, but in the meantime, rest well. Dream of large women.
And as he dashes off up along the mountain path, cut to close on, a knife pointed at a throat. Pull back to reveal Vizzini, munching on an apple, holding the knife to Buttercup's throat. She is blindfolded. A picnic spread is laid out, a tablecloth, 2 goblets, and between them a small leather wine container, and some cheese and a couple of apples. The picnic is set on a lovely spot, high on the edge of the mountain path, with a view all the way back to the sea. The man in black comes running around the path, sees Vizzini, slows. The 2 men study each other. Then,
So now it is down to you, and it is down to me.
the man in black nods and comes nearer,
If you wish her dead, by all means, keep moving forward.
and he pushes his long knife harder against Buttercup's unprotected throat.
Wait, let me explain.
There's nothing to explain. You are trying to kidnap what I have rightfully stolen.
Perhaps an arrangement can be made.
There will be no arrangement.
As the man in black moves forward again, cut to Buttercup's throat, As Vizini jabs with his long knife, a drop of red blood appears against her skin. Cut to the man in black stopping fast.
Well, if there's no arrangement, then we're in an impasse.
I fear so. I cannot compete with you physically, and you are no match for my brains.
You're that smart, huh?
Let me put it this way. Have you ever heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates?
Yes.
Morons.
Really? In that case, I challenge you to a battle of wits.
For the princess?
The man in black nods.
To the death?
Another nod.
I accept.
Then pour the wine.
As Vizini fills the goblets with dark red liquid, the man in black pulls a small packet from his clothing, drops it by the wine.
Open that and inhale. Do not touch.
I smell nothing.
What you do not smell is called iocane powder. It's odorless. Iocane powder.
Sorry.
It is odorless, tasteless, dissolves instantly in liquid, and is among the deadliest poisons known to man. Hand me the goblets.
Take them yourself. My long knife does not leave her throat.
And he presses harder, making his meaning quite clear. Cut to Vizini, watching excitedly as the man in black takes the goblets, turns his back. A moment later, he turns again, faces Vizini, drops the iocane packet to the kerchief. It is empty now. The man in black sits, puts one glass in front of Vizini, the other in front of himself.
All right. Where is the poison? The battle of which has begun. In the end, when you decide, we will both drink. And you find out who is right and who is dead.
But it's so simple. All I need to do is divine from what I know of you. Are you the kind of man who would put the poison into his own glass or his enemies?
He reaches for the man in black's wine goblet, studies it.
Now, a clever man would place the poison in his own goblet because he would know that only a great fool would reach for what he was given. I am not a great fool, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you must have known I was not a great fool. You would count on it, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
He puts the goblet down.
You made your decision then?
Not remotely, because iocane comes from Australia, as everyone knows, and Australia is entirely peopled with criminals. And criminals are not used to having people not trust, are used to having people not trust them. As you are not trusted by me, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Wait till I get going. Where was I? Yes, Australia. And you must have suspected that I would have known the powder's origin. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
You're stalling now.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you? You've beaten my Turk, which means you're exceptionally strong. So you could have put it in your cup, trusting on your strength to save you. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you also bested my Spaniard, which means you must have studied. And in studying, you must have learned that the man is mortal, so you would have put the poison as far from yourself as possible. So I clearly cannot choose the wine in front of me.
As Vizini's pleasure has been growing throughout, the man in black's has been fast disappearing.
You're trying to trick me into giving something away. It won't work.
Oh, it has worked. You've given everything away. I know where the poison is.
Then make your choice.
I will, and I choose.
And suddenly he stops, points at something behind the man in black.
What in the world can that be?
Man in black turning around, looking.
Where? I didn't see anything.
Vizini busily switching the goblets while the man in black has his head turned.
Oh, well, I could have sworn I saw something. Well, no matter.
The man in black turns to face him again. Vizini starts to laugh.
What's so funny?
I'll tell you in a minute. First, let's drink. Me from my glass, And you from yours.
And he picks up his goblet. The man in black picks up the one in front of him. As they both start to drink, Vizini hesitates a moment, then, allowing the man in black to drink first, swallows his wine.
You guessed wrong.
You only think I guessed wrong. That's what's so funny. I switched glasses when your back was turned.
The man in black, there's nothing he can say. He just sits there, Vizini watching him.
Fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved with in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known as this one. Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
He laughs and roars and cackles and whoops and is in all ways quite cheery until he falls over dead. Cut to the man in black stepping past the corpse, taking the blindfold and bindings off Buttercup, who notices Vizini lying dead. The man in black pulls her to her feet.
Who are you?
I'm no one to be trifled with. That's all you need to know.
He starts to lead her off the mountain path into untraveled terrain.
To think, all that time it was your cup that was poisoned.
Close up, the man in black.
They were both poisoned. I spent years building up an immunity to iocane powder.
And with that, he takes off, dragging her behind him. Cut to exterior wild stretch of terrain. The man in black comes running into view, still dragging Buttercup, who sometimes stumbles, but he keeps forcing her along. Finally, when she is close to exhaustion, he lets go of her.
Catch your breath.
If you'll release me, whatever you ask for ransom, you'll get it. I promise you.
And what's that worth? The promise of a woman. You're very funny, Highness.
I was giving you a chance. It doesn't matter where you take me. There is no greater hunter than Prince Humperdinck. He can track a falcon on a cloudy day. He can find you.
You think your dearest love will save you?
I never said he was my dearest love. And yes, he will save me. That I know.
Ah, you admit that he's not your love. You do not love your fiancé.
He knows I do not love him.
Are not capable of love is what you mean.
I have loved more deeply than a killer like yourself could ever dream.
Suddenly, the man in black raises his hand, starts it forward in a slapping motion. Buttercup tries to turn her head away. The man in black stops his hand a fraction of an inch from her cheek.
That was a warning, Your Highness. The next time my hand flies on its own, from where I come from, there are penalties when a woman lies.
And suddenly he grabs her hand and they are once again racing away. Cut to Prince Humperdinck, lying on the top edge of the cliffs of insanity, his body dangerously over the side, staring down. Cut to Count Rugen, mounted, watching. Behind him, half a dozen armed warriors, also mounted. A great white horse waits riderless in front. The prince nimbly jumps to his feet, begins examining the rocky ground. To an ordinary eye, that's all it looks like, rocky ground, but not to Humperdinck. And maybe he isn't the best hunter in the world. Then again, maybe he is, because as he begins to put his feet into strange positions, we realize that what he is doing is miming fencers. There was a mighty duel. It ranged all over. Now he changes hands, still in mind, shifting the imaginary sword. He shakes his head. It makes no sense. Sometimes they held with the left foot, sometimes the right. Cut to Prince Humperdinck continuing his miming, and he's following the course of the duel. It's incredible. They were both masters.
Who won? How did it end?
My guess would be that the loser ran off alone that way, while the winner followed those footprints toward Gilder. Cut to the prince and the count, moving rapidly toward their horses.
Shall we track them both?
The loser is nothing. Only the princess matters. Clearly, this was all planned by warriors of Gilder, and we must All be ready for whatever lies ahead.
Could this be a trap?
I always think everything could be a trap, which is why I'm still alive. As he gallops off screen, cut to exterior mountain path. It's where Fezzik fought the man in black. Camera pulls back to reveal the prince, reining in sharply, the others behind him. Someone has beaten a giant. Pity the country of Gilder if she dies. Cut to exterior around Vizini's body. The picnic is spread as before. Camera pulls back to reveal the prince kneeling by the body as the others ride up. The prince grabs up the empty poison packet, hands it to Rogan after first sniffing it himself. Iocane. I'd bet my life on it. And there are the princess's footprints. She is alive, or was 2 hours ago. And as he vaults onto his horse, and they all charge off, cut to Buttercup, being spun into camera view, falling heavily as the man in black releases her. We are still in a barren area, but higher now.
Rest, Highness.
I know who you are. Your cruelty reveals everything.
The man in black says nothing.
You're the Dread Pirate Roberts. Admit it.
With pride. What can I do for you?
You can die slowly, cut into 1,000 pieces.
Hardly complimentary, Highness. Why, lose your venom on me?
Close up Buttercup, quietly now.
You killed my love.
The man in black watching her closely.
That's possible. I kill a lot of people.
And now he pulls her to her feet. And as again they start to run, cut to Humperdinck, riding like a bat out of hell, approaching the same stretch of wild terrain where Buttercup promised ransom in exchange for her freedom. Behind him come the others, and a cloud of dust is rising visibly from all the following horses. The dust cloud rises high as Rugen rides up. She was alive 50 minutes ago, and if she is otherwise, when find her. Camera moves into a close-up of Prince Humperdinck. His range is almost beyond control. I shall be very put out. From his fury as they take off, cut to the man in black, leading Buttercup along the edge of the almost sheer ravine. The drop is sharp and severe. Below, the ravine floor is flat, but getting there would not be half the fun.
Who was this love of yours? Another rich or another prince like that one? Ugly, rich, scabby?
No. A farm boy. Poor. Poor and perfect, with eyes like the sea after a storm.
Buttercup close up, and probably if she did not hate Robert so, there would be tears.
Your ship attacked, and the Dread Pirate Roberts never takes prisoners.
I can't afford to make exceptions. One word leaks out that a pirate's gone soft, and people begin to disobey him. And it's nothing but work, work, work all the time.
You mock my pain.
Life is pain, Highness. Anyone can see differently selling something. I remember your farm boy, I think so. What was that, like 5 years ago?
Buttercup nods.
Does it bother you to hear?
Nothing you can say will upset me. My heart is now a secret garden, and the walls are very high.
He died well. That should please you. No bribe attempts or blubbering. He simply said, please. Please. I need to live. It was the please that caught my memory. That's why it was so important for him there. True love, he replied. Then we spoke of a girl of surpassing beauty and faithfulness. I can only assume that he meant you. It should be blessed for me destroying him before he found out what you are.
And what am I?
Faithlessness, he talked of, madam. Your enduring faithfulness. Oops. Now tell me truly, when you found out he was gone, did you go out and get engaged to the prince the same hour, or did you wait a whole week out of respect for the dead?
You mocked me once. Never do it again. I died that day.
Cut to the man in black, about to reply as they stand there on the edge of the sheer ravine, but then something catches his attention, and as he stares at it briefly, his POV, the dust cloud caused by Humperdinck's horses, is rising up into the sky. Cut to Buttercup, and while his attention is on the dust cloud rising high, she pushes him with all the strength she has.
You can die too for all I care.
Cut to the man in black, teetering on the ravine edge for a moment. Then he begins to fall down. Down goes the man in black. Down, down, rolling, spinning, crashing, always down towards the flat rock floor of the ravine. Cut to Buttercup, staring, transfixed at what she was wrought. There is a long pause. She stands there, alone at night, as from far below the words comes to her, drifting on the wind.
As you wish.
Cut to exterior the ravine floor. The man in black feebly moves, manages to pull his mask from his face. Cut to Buttercup, blinking back her tears.
Oh, my sweet Wesley, what have I done?
And without a second thought or consideration of the dangers, she starts down into the ravine. She does wonderfully, at least for a while. But then it gets too sharp. A rock she holds to betray her, giving way, and then she is falling too, spinning and twisting, crashing and torn, cartwheeling down toward what is left of her beloved. Cut to the dust cloud rising. Pull back to reveal Prince Humperdinck and the others reining in at the spot where Buttercup told the man in black she knew he was the dread pirate Roberts. The prince shakes his head. We've cut the lead to less than the half an hour. They must have seen our dust cloud closing in, which might account for their panicking into error. Unless I'm wrong, and I'm never wrong. They're headed dead into the fire swamp. Cut to Count Rugen. The mere mention of the fire swamp makes him pale. Cut to the ravine floor as seen from high above. Two bodies lie a few feet apart, not moving. It is, of course, Buttercup and Wesley. They might be corpses. After a time, Wesley slowly forces his body into motion, and as he does, cut to Buttercup, bruised and torn, as Wesley crawls slowly toward her.
Can you move at all?
Move? You're alive. If you want, I can fly. Oh, Wesley, my dearest.
Remember I said I would always come waiting for you? Why didn't you wait for me?
Well, you were dead.
You should have more faith, child. Death cannot stop true love. All it did was delay it for a while.
I will never doubt again.
You'll never need.
Cut to, and now they begin to kiss. It's a tender kiss, tender and loving and gentle. And
Oh, no, no, please.
cut to interior the kid's bedroom.
What's the matter?
They're kissing again. Do we have to hear the kissing part?
Someday you might not mind so much.
Skip to the fire swamp. That sounded good.
You're sick. I'll humor you.
He picks up the book and we cut to exterior the ravine floor. Buttercup and Wesley racing along the ravine floor. Wesley glances up, cutting to Humperdinck and his men perched on top of the cliff, looking down at Wesley and Buttercup.
Your pig fiance is too late. Just a few more steps and we'll be in the safety of the fire swamp.
Cut to Buttercup and Wesley's tired to say it with cavalier-like nonchalance, but she isn't buying. Instantly afraid, she stops.
We'll never survive.
Nonsense. You're only saying that because no one ever has.
As they race off, leaving Humperdinck and his men stranded, defeated. Cut to exterior the fire swamp, and it really doesn't look any worse than any other moist, sulfurous, infernal horror you might run across. Great trees block the sun. Wesley and Buttercup is clearly panicked, and maybe Wesley is too, but he moves jauntily along, sword in hand.
You know, I'm kind of disappointed. This isn't so bad. I'm not saying like I'd build a summer home here or anything, but the trees are actually quite lovely.
The giant trees, thick and black green, they look ominous as hell. And they shield all but intermittent stripes of the sun. Cut to a giant spurt of flame, leaping up, preceded by a slight popping sound. In this particular spurt of flame, misses Wesley, but Buttercup is suddenly on fire, at least the lower half of her is. And cut to Wesley, instantly diving at her, knocking her to the moist ground, throwing his own body over the flames, suffocating them. This isn't all that easy, and it causes him a bit of grief, but he does his best to sound as jaunty as before. Wesley helps her to her feet. She is dazed, and her panic has grown. He seems all excited.
Well, now, that's an adventure.
He examines where the flames burst over her.
Singed a bit, are we?
He was, and he shakes his head no. Cut to the swamp floor, and as there's another popping sound, cut to Wesley grabbing Buttercup, pulling her aside to safety as another great spurt of flames suddenly shoots up.
One thing I can say, Fire Swamp does keep you on your toes.
Buttercup is frozen with fear. He takes her hand, gently leads her forward as we dissolve to the two of them moving slowly along through a particularly dangerous part of the fire swamp. It's later now. The sun slants down at a slightly different angle.
Trues will all gone, but a happy memory, because Robert's ship Revenge was anchored far at the far end, and I, as you know, am Roberts.
How is that possible? He's been marauding for 20 years, and you only left me 5 years ago.
I myself am often surprised at life's little quirks. You see, I told you before about saying please was true. Intrigued Roberts my saying please, as did my description of your beauty.
Exterior of the fire swamp continuous. Some hideous vines. They look like they could be flesh eating. Wesley takes his sword, slices a path for them to follow. The vines groan as they fall. He's been chatting away the entire time.
Finally, Roberts decided something. He said, all right, Wesley, I've never had a valet. I will try to keep you tonight, and I'll most likely kill you in the morning. For 3 years, he did that. Good night, Wesley. Good work. Sleep well. And I'll most likely kill you in the morning. It was a fine time for me. I was alive, and I learned to fence. I learned to fight. Anything and anybody could teach me. Roberts and I eventually became friends. And then it happened.
What? Go on.
Wesley picking her up, carrying her across some swamp that is bridged by a narrow, rickety tree branch.
Roberts had grown rich, and he wanted to retire. He took me in his quarters, and he told me his secret. I am not the dread pirate Roberts, he said. My name is Ryan. I inherited the ship from the precious dread pirate Roberts, just as you will inherit from me. If the man I inherited it from was not the real dread pirates either. His name was Cumberbund. The real Roberts was retired 15 years and living like a king in Patagonia. He explained that the name was more important thing to inspire fear. No one would surrender to the dread pirate, Wesley.
The two of them have now crossed the pond.
So we sailed ashore, took on an entirely new crew, and he stayed aboard for a while as first mate, all the time calling me Roberts. Once the crew believed, he left the ship, and I became Roberts ever since. Except now that we are here together, I shall retire my hand. I will retire the name over to someone else. Everything clear to you?
Buttercup about to reply, but the ground she steps on gives way. It's snow sand, a great patch of it, and it has her. A cloud of powder rises, and she sinks into the stuff, crying Wesley's name, but then she is gone as we cut to Wesley whirling, slashing at a U-shaped vine, hacks it in half. It's still connected to the tree. Then he grabs it, drops his sword, and clutching the other end of the vine, he dives into the snow sand, and there's another cloud of white powder, but it settles quickly. Now nothing can be seen, nothing at all. Just the snow sand, lovely and lethal. Hold on the snow sand, then cut to exterior of the giant trees. Nothing much moves. The snow sand is quiet. An odd panting sound is heard now. The panting sound is suddenly very loud, and then a giant ROUS darts into view. The ROUS, a rodent of unusual size, is probably no more than 80 pounds of bone and power. It sniffs around a bit. Then, as quickly as it has come, it goes, climbing. It continues to climb, then stops, rests, looks down from a tree branch, panting and deadly. Cut to the snow sand as Wesley. Lungs long past the bursting point, explodes out. He has Buttercup across his shoulders, and as he pulls to the edge of the snow sand pit using the vine, cut to close-up of Buttercup, her face is caked with the white powder. It is in her eyes, her ears, hair, mouth. She's still probably beautiful, but you have to look awfully hard to see it as Wesley continues to pull them to safety. Cut to the ROUS high above them. It watches. Cut to Buttercup, placed sitting, her back against a tree. Wesley is cleaning the snow sand from her face. He hesitates, glances around, and the ROUS on a much lower branch now. It stares down at Wesley. Wesley staring back up at the beast. Buttercup is oblivious. Her eyes fluttered. He continues to work on her as we...
We'll never succeed. We may as well die here.
We have already succeeded.
Now there are two ROUSs. They have climbed into nearby tree, stare hungrily down. Wesley, picking her up, puts an arm around her, starts to walk with her as he encouragingly goes on talking.
What are the three terrors of the fires? 1, the flame spurts. No problem. There's just a little popping sound preceding each, and we can avoid it. 2, the sand snow. You were clever enough to discover what that looks like, so in the future, we can avoid that one too.
But Wesley, what about the ROUSs?
The rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
And as he says that, the third ROUS, one we haven't seen before, comes flying down at him from a tree branch, and Buttercup screaming, and the ROUS attacking Wesley's shoulder with his razor teeth, and blood begins immediately to flow, and Wesley, with death close at hand as a popping sound starts, a flame spurt shooting back skywards, and Wesley, as with one desperate move, he rolls into the flame, but he has one of the ROUSs underneath him, and as the ROUS bursts into flame, it lets go, and Wesley rolls safely free, grabs his sword, and slashes the ROUS, which is trying to put itself out. The ROUS collapses, dead. Wesley stands motionless, exhausted. The danger is past. Cut to Buttercup, relieved. Wesley, he manages a smile. Suddenly, a hard thumping sound is heard. Wesley turns, an ROUS standing in front of him. After a beat, a second ROUS lands next to the first. Slowly, they advance on Wesley. Wesley girding himself. The ROUS is advancing. Suddenly, they break into a fierce charge. Wesley standing his ground. Cut to ROUSs charging right past Wesley and dividing and diving on the dead ROUS. Buttercup, scared, going to Wesley, both of them staring as we cut to the dead ROUS. As its companions devour it, Wesley leads Buttercup away, dissolved to Buttercup and Wesley, moving slower than ever. They look like death. Then they stop, gaze ahead as we cut to the far edge of the fire swamp, just ahead, beyond a beach. Buttercup and Wesley.
Now, was that so terrible?
Something we hadn't expected. Prince Humperdinck in close-up. Surrender! Pull back to reveal Humperdinck on his horse. Rugen beside him. 3 warriors armed and ready are mounted in formation behind. Buttercup and Wesley are at the edge of the fire swamp, about to leave it. They stop. Buttercup looks beyond exhaustion. Wesley looks worse. It's dusk. Beyond Humperdinck are the waters of a bay. Cut to Wesley and Buttercup staring out at others.
You mean you wish to surrender to me?
Tony's as of now. Oh, there we go.
Very well. I accept.
I give you full marks for bravery. Don't make yourself a fool.
How will you capture us? You know the secrets of the fire, or we know the secrets of the fire swamp. We could live there happily for quite some time. Whenever you feel like dying, feel free to come visit.
Cut to Humperdinck.
I tell you again, surrender.
It will
Cut
not
to
happen.
Wesley. Cut to Buttercup looking from one to the other, then something else catches her eye, and we cut to an armed warrior in shadow with a loaded crossbow aimed at Wesley's heart. Cut to Buttercup looking the other way. Cut to another warrior, crossbow aimed at Wesley. Cut to Humperdinck.
For the last time, surrender.
Cut to Wesley.
Death first.
Cut to Buttercup frantically staring around, and now cut to a third warrior, crossbow stretched, ready to fire. This one is hidden in a tree, blocking any escape that Wesley might try.
Will you promise not to hurt him?
Cut to Humperdinck whirling to face her.
What was that?
What was that?
Cut to Wesley whirling to face her.
What was that?
Cut to Buttercup talking to them both.
If we surrender, freely and without struggle, will you promise not to hurt this man?
May I live 1,000 years and never hunt again.
He's a poor, simple sailor on the pirate ship Revenge. I've known him since we were young. Will you promise to return him to his ship?
Cut to Prince Humperdinck and Count Rugen.
I swear it will be done. Once we're out of sight, take him to the pit of despair.
I swear it will be done.
Cut to Buttercup and Wesley.
I thought you were dead once, and it almost destroyed me. I could not have you die again, not when I could save you.
Cut to Wesley, close up, dazed, silent. Cut to Buttercup, about to come apart at the seams emotionally. She starts to speak again, can't, turns away and starts away, and cut to Wesley watching, and cut to Humperdinck riding to her, swooping her up onto his horse, racing off. Cut to Wesley, staring after her as Rugen, dismounted now, and his warriors advance on Wesley. The Count has a heavy sword and he holds it in his hand.
Come, sir, we must get you to your ship.
Wesley
Oh.
says,
We are men of action. Lies don't become us.
Well spoken.
Wesley is looking at him.
What is it?
You have 6 fingers on your right hand. Someone was looking for you.
Count Rugen clubs Wesley hard across the skull. Cut to Wesley. He falls like a stone. A screen goes black. In the darkness, frightening sounds. Fade in. Interior, the giant cage. Something even more frightening. A giant cage, dank and chill, underground and windowless, thickly barred. Wesley lies in the center of the cage, chained and helpless. Cut to something really frightening. A bloodless-looking albino. Dead pale, he silently enters the cage carrying a tray of food and medication. He puts it down.
Where are we?
The pit of despair.
He begins tending Wesley's wounds. Wesley winches.
Don't think about escaping. Your chains are much too thick, and don't dream of rescue either. The only way in here is secret. Only the prince, the count, and I know how to get in and out.
I'm here to die then?
Till they kill you. Yes, of course.
Then why bother curing me?
The prince and count always insist everyone be healthy before they are broken.
So it's to be tortured.
From the albino, nod.
I can cope with torture.
From the albino, shake.
You don't believe me?
You survived the fire swamp. You must be very brave. But no one withstands the machine.
He studies Wesley. His face is almost sad. Cut to Buttercup, and her face is sad, pallid, perhaps ill. She wanders down a corridor in Florin Castle. As she moves unsealing past the intersecting corridor, Prince Humperdinck and Count Rugen watching her.
She's been like that ever since the fire swamp. It's my father's failing health that's upsetting her.
As they move on, cut to Florin Castle at night. Camera holds on it while we hear the grandfather's voice readings.
The king died that very night, and before the following dawn, Buttercup and Humperdinck were married, and at noon she met her subjects again, this time as their queen.
Hey,
And
hold on a sec, please.
Cut to the kid's room. The kid is half sitting now, not strong yet, but clearly stronger than when we first saw him. His grandfather, sitting on the bed now, holds the book.
Grandpa, you read that wrong. She doesn't marry Humperdinck. She marries Wesley. I'm just sure of it. After all Wesley did for her. If she didn't marry him, it wouldn't be fair.
who said life was fair? Where is that written? Life isn't fair. It's just fairer than death, that's all.
I'm telling you, you're messing it up. The story. Now get it right.
Do you want me to read this?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then. No more interruptions. At noon, she met her subjects again, this time as queen.
And on these words, cut to Prince Humperdinck on the same balcony we first saw him, in full color. Count Rugen stands behind him.
My father's final words were, "Love her as I loved her, and there will be joy. I present to you your queen, Queen Buttercup."
And on his words, cut to the crowd, and it's gigantic. Cut to the balcony as Buttercup emerges. As she descends the staircase, cut to the crowd suddenly going to its knees, wave after wave of silent, kneeling people, all of them down. Cut to Buttercup, touched as before, but then she seems stunned as we cut to the crowd. Someone is booing. The booing gets louder as the ancient woman approaches Buttercup through the crowd, booing every step of the way.
Why do you do this?
Because you had love in your hands and you gave it up for gold.
But they would have killed Wesley if I hadn't done it.
Your true love lives and you are going to marry another. Oh, true love saved her in the fire swamp and she treated it like garbage. And that is what she is, the queen of refuse. So cheer her if you want. Cheer the queen of slime, the queen of muck, the queen of putrescence.
She advances on Buttercup now, who is more and more panicked. Cut to close up the ancient booer. Louder and louder and louder she shrieks, Vitruvian at Buttercup, reaching out her old hands toward Buttercup's throat. And Buttercup is as frightened now as Dorothy was when the witch went after her in The Wizard of Oz. And suddenly, cut to Buttercup banging out of her nightmare alone in her castle barren. She frantically grabs a robe and starts to run.
It was still 20 days till the wedding. The king still lived, but Buttercup's worst nightmares were growing steadily worse.
See, didn't I tell you? She'd never married that rotten Humperdinck.
Yes, you're very smart. Shut up.
Buttercup banging on the door on the prince's chambers. He opens the door, brings her in. Count Rugen seated at a desk covered with official-looking papers.
It comes to this. I love Wesley. I always have. I know now. I always will. If you tell me I must marry you in 20 days, believe me, I will be dead by morning.
Cut to Prince Humperdinck, just stunned. Finally, softly, he begins to talk.
I could never cause you grief, consider our wedding off. You return this Wesley to his ship. Then we will simply alert him. Beloved, are you certain he still wants you? After all, it was you who did the leaving in the fire swamp. Not to mention that pirates are not known to be men of their words.
My Wesley will always come for me.
I suggest a deal. You write 4 copies of a letter. I'll send my 4 fastest ships, one in each direction. The dread pirate Roberts is often close to Flora this time of year. We'll run up a white flag and deliver your message. If Wesley wants you, bless you both. If not, please consider me as an alternative to suicide. Are we agreed?
As she nods, exterior, a very thick grove of trees. It's later that night. The trees are unusual in one respect. All of them are extraordinarily heavily knotted. Pull back to reveal Humperdinck and Rugen, dressed as before, walking into the grove of trees.
She really is a winning creature, a trifle simple perhaps, but her appeal is undeniable.
I know. The people are quite taken with her. It's odd. But when I hired Vizini to have her murdered on our engagement day, I thought that was clever. But it's going to be much more moving when I strangle her on our wedding night. Once Gilder is blamed, the nation will be truly outraged. They'll demand we go to war.
They are deeper into the tree grove now. Rugen is searching around.
Now, where is that secret knot? It's miserable finding this place at night. We made it too secret.
Finding the knot on the tree, he hits it and it opens, revealing a staircase leading underground.
Ah, coming down into the pit. Wesley's almost got his strength. I'm starting him on the machine soon.
Tyrone, you know I love watching you work, but I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wedding to arrange, my wife to murder, and Gilder to frame for it. I'm swamped.
Oh, get some rest. If you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything.
Rugen smiles, waves, hurries down the stairs as the tree slides back perfectly into place. Cut to Humperdinck in his quarters, swamped. Piles of papers are strewn all over. Now Yellen, a pale, shifty, quick-eyed man, appears in the doorway.
Yellen,
Sire,
as chief enforcer of all Fiorin, I trust you with this secret. Killers from Gilder are infiltrating our thieves' quarter and plan to murder my bride on our wedding night. My spy network has heard no such. Oh, that's probably not supposed to be Humperdinck.
Probably not. My spy network has heard no such news.
Any word from Wesley?
The prince and Yellen turning to her in the doorway.
It's too soon, my angel. Patience.
He will come for me.
Of course.
As she glides out,
she will not be murdered. I want the thieves' quarter emptied and locked and every inhabitant arrested.
Many of the thieves will resist. My regular enforcers will be inadequate.
Form a brute squad then. The thieves' quarter must be closed before I wed.
It won't be easy, sire.
Try ruling the world sometime.
cut to an enormous thing. We can't tell quite what it is or what it does, but somehow it's unsettling. Camera pulls back to reveal Count Rugen dragging the thing alongside Wesley in the cage. Levers and wheels and wires, you name it, it's there.
Beautiful, isn't it?
He starts attaching suction cups to Wesley.
It took me half a lifetime to invent it.
Cut to the albino in a far corner shadow, watching, afraid. Cut to Count Rugen working away, attaching more suction cups to Wesley.
I'm sure you've discovered my deep and abiding interest in pain. At present, I'm writing the definitive work on the subject. So I want you please to be totally honest with me on how the machine makes you feel.
Cut to a dial with number ranging from a low of 1 to a high of 50. Rugen goes to it.
This being our first try, I'll use the lowest setting.
And he turns the dial to 1. Cut to Wesley. He has cups on his head now, on his temples, on his heart, his hands and feet. He says nothing, keeps control of himself. Cut to Count Rugen, fiddling with his machine a moment more.
Now, all we have to do is to get the wheels spinning to generate power, and we shall be in business.
And the minute the machine really starts, cut to Wesley. And he's lying on the table, and he's only flesh, and the chains are metal and thick, but such as his desperation, it almost seems he might break them. A terrible sound comes from his throat, an incessant gasping. It keeps coming as we finally cut to Count Rugen. He switches off the machine, picks up a large notebook and pen, sits in a chair. The noise of the machine subsides. Rugen opens the book to a blank page.
As you must know, the concept of the suction pump is centuries old. Well, really, that's all this is, except that instead of sucking water, I'm sucking life. I've just sucked 1 year of your life away. If I set the dial to 2, that would mean 2 years gone, 2 times the pain. I might someday go as high as 5, but I don't know what that would do to you. So, let's just start with what we have. What did this do to you? Tell me. And remember now, this is for prosperity, so please be honest. How do you feel?
And now, at last, cut to Wesley in anguish so deep it is dizzying. Helpless, he cries. Count Rugen watches the tears, then starts to write.
Interesting.
Cut to the thieves' quarters. A lot of hollering is going on. The thieves are being rounded up by the brute squad, a large group of large men. Yellen stands in a wagon in the midst of all the scuffling.
Is everybody out? Is there an assistant I'm talking to? No?
Almost. There's a drunk Spaniard with a sword that's been giving us some trouble.
There you go.
You give him some trouble.
He signals for the wagon to start, and as it does, cut to the assistant brute watching Yellen go. Then, as he hurries along a narrow street, cut to the assistant turning a corner, slowing as a familiar voice is heard, getting louder as the assistant draws near.
I am waiting for you, Vizini. You told me to go back to the beginning, and so I have. And this is where I stay. This is where I am, and this is where I'll stay. I will not be moved.
Now, as the assistant peers into a tiny courtyard, cut to Inigo, sitting slumped on a filthy stoop, a bottle of brandy in one hand, the 6-figured sword in the other. He looks dreadful, unshaven, puffy-eyed, gaunt, but the way he brandished the great sword in front of him would give anyone pause for worry. Cut to the assistant, moving away from Inigo's sight, gesturing as he calls out,
You, brute, come here.
Cut to Inigo. Before taking a long pull from his brandy bottle, he stops as the assistant brute comes into view.
Hold there.
I don't budge. Keep your hole there.
But the prince gave orders.
So did Vizini. When a job went wrong, you go back to the beginning. Well, this is where we got the job, so it's the beginning, and I'm staying till Vizini comes.
I don't think so.
Cut to Inigo being lifted into the air by the brute, the assistant the brute called for.
I'm waiting for Vizini.
You surely are a meanie.
Fezzik?
Who says it?
Pulls back to reveal the brute holding Inigo. It is indeed a very happy Fezzik. Cut to the assistant brute moving quickly up unnoticed on the other two. Fezzik still holds Inigo as the assistant brute brings out club, raises it. Neither Inigo nor Fezzik is watching, just blabbing on to each other in rhymes.
It's you.
True.
As the assistant brute is just about to club Inigo's brains out, Fezzik lets fly with a stupendous punch. The assistant brute takes the full force of the blow right in the chops. It's like he was shot from a cannon as he careens backward out of sight across the street. There's a pause. Then a crunching sound as he clearly has come into contact with something hard and immobile. Cut to Fezzik putting Inigo down.
You don't look so good. You don't smell so good either.
Perhaps not, but I feel fine.
And he faints. As he does, cut to interior, an empty alehouse in the thieves' quarter. Inigo slumped in a chair, still out, while Fezzik brings over a plate of food, slaps him gently awake, starts to feed him.
Oh, that does make a difference.
Shh. Take it easy.
I'm sorry for fainting before, but I've done nothing all these days but drink and wait for Vizzini. I'm helpless without Vizzini, and a surprise like seeing you, well, it was just too much for my empty stomach. But I am fine now.
Good. Vizzini is dead.
Dead, you say, Viz?
And he faints again. Cut to interior alehouse kitchen, continuous. Inigo. He lies on a bed above the alehouse kitchen. Out again as Fezzik appears with a bowl. Begins toweling Inigo's face with warm water.
Oh, it's nice and warm. It feels wonderful.
I hoped so.
Forgive me, my friend. I never realized I was in such horrible condition. But seeing you and then hearing about Vizzini, I wasn't ready for it. But now I am ready for anything.
Wonderful. The six-fingered man is named Count Rugen, and at this very moment he is here in Florence.
Ecstasy.
As he faints again, cut to two large tubs, one filled with steaming water, the other with water of a clearly icy nature. Without a word, Fezzik picks up Inigo by the scruff of the neck, ducks him into the icy water, then, after a reasonable amount of time, he pulls him out, ducks him into the steaming stuff, and, a short time after that, puts him back in the cold again, then back to the hot.
You'll thank me for this someday.
No, I won't.
But that's all he has time to say, because then he's submerged again. As he comes up for air.
Enough! Where is this Count Rugen now? I may kill him.
He's with the prince in the castle. The castle is locked till after the wedding tomorrow night, and only one door has been left unsealed. 30 men guard it.
How many could you handle?
They're the cream of the brute squad, so I don't think more than 10.
Leaving 20 for me, and at my best, I could never defeat that many. I need Vizzini to plan. I have no gift for strategy.
But Vizzini is dead, and I'm no help since I haven't done one thing right in over 11 years.
Cut to the two of them, silent and bereft. Then a wild look hits Inigo.
No, not Vizzini. I need the man in black.
What?
Look, he bested you with your strength, your greatness. He bested me with steel. He must have thought Vizzini, and a man who can do that can plan my castle onslaught any day. I wonder about him often.
The rumors are that he was the princess's true love.
Tell me later. Let's go.
Where?
To find the man in black, obviously.
But you don't know where he is.
Don't bother me with trifles. After 20 years, at last my father's soul will be at peace.
Cut to close-up Inigo.
There will be blood tonight.
He exits. Close-up Feznik.
Ours?
Cut to interior Prince Humperdinck's chambers. Prince Humperdinck's chambers strewn with maps, etc. Buttercup is with him. Yellen enters.
Rise and report.
The thieves' quarter is shuttered. 30 men guard the gate.
Add 70 more. 100 brutes. My princess must be safe.
The main gate has but one key, and I carry that.
He shows the key dangling from a chain around his neck.
Tonight we marry. Tomorrow morning your men will escort us to Florin Channel, where every ship in my armada will accompany us on our honeymoon.
Every ship but your 4 fastest, you mean?
The prince looks at her blankly for a moment.
Every ship but the 4 that you send.
Yes, of course. Naturally, not those 4.
Your Majesties?
Cut to Buttercup, staring at Humperdinck.
You never sent the ships. Don't bother lying. It doesn't matter anyway. Wesley will come. It doesn't matter. Wesley will come for me anyway.
You're a silly girl.
Yes, I am a silly girl for not having seen sooner that you were nothing but a coward with a heart full of fear.
I would not say such things if I were you.
Why not? You can't hurt me. Wesley and I are joined by the bonds of love, and you can't track that, not with 1,000 bloodhounds. And you can't break it, not with 1,000 swords. And when I say you are a coward, that is only because you were the slimiest weakling ever to crawl the earth.
Cut to Humperdinck, jumping at her, yanking her by the hair, starting to pull her along, out of control, his words indistinct.
I would not say such things if I were you.
Cut to Buttercup's room as the prince throws it open, hurls her inside, slams it shut, locks it, breaks into a wild run, and cut to Humperdinck racing toward the grove of trees that hide the entrance to the pit of despair. Cut to Wesley in the machine, but it's not on. Count Rugen is making a few adjustments. He looks up as the prince suddenly comes down the steps, raging.
You truly love each other, so you might have been truly happy. Not one couple in a century has that chance, no matter what the story books say. And so I think no man in a century will suffer as greatly as you will.
And with that, he whirls, turns on the machine, grabs the lever, and cut to Count Rugen, calling out,
Not to 50.
but it's too late as we cut to Prince Humperdinck, shoving the lever all the way over, and cut to Wesley's face. And there has never been such pain. The pain grows and grows with it now. Something else has started. The death scream. As the death scream starts to rise, the albino, watching from the shadows, starts to shiver. The scream continues to rise. Cut to exterior outside the pit of despair. Outside the pit of despair, as the sound moves along, louder and louder, and cut to interior Buttercup's room. Buttercup in her room. She hears the sound, doesn't know what it is, but her arms involuntarily go around her body to try to control the trembling. And cut to Yellen and his 100 brutes. And they hear it, and a few of the brutes turn to each other in fear as the scream builds. Cut to the square outside the castle. There are many people, as it is the eve of the country's 500th anniversary, but all the people stop as the sound hits them. A few children pale, bolt toward their parents, and cut to Inigo and Fezzik, trying to make their way through a jammed, narrow alleyway, which suddenly quiets as the fading sound comes through.
Fezzik, listen, do you hear? That is the sound of ultimate suffering. My heart made that sound when Rugen slaughtered my father. The man in black makes it now.
How do you know?
His true love is marrying another tomorrow. So who else has cause for ultimate suffering this celebration night? Excuse me.
It's too crowded.
Pardon me? It's important.
No one budges, and the sound is fading faster.
Fezzik, help me.
Camera zooms into Fezzik, gigantic and roaring.
Everybody move!
And as his great arms start to push, the crowd begins to fall away, and he and Inigo start to track the fading sound. Cut to a small shed near the grove of trees near the pit of despair. It's dark now as the albino appears, opens the shed door, takes out a wheelbarrow, and cut to the trees as the albino wheels the barrow toward it. Suddenly,
I'm having trouble. I'm having the devil's own time tracking that scream.
Inigo moves into view, his sword at the albino's throat.
Where's the man in black?
The albino shakes his head, says nothing.
Where?
Another shake?
You get there from this grove, yes?
Silence.
Jog his memory, Vezek.
As Fezzik crunches the albino on top of the head as if he had a hammer and was driving in a nail. The albino drops without a sound.
I'm sorry, Inigo. I didn't mean to jog him so hard. I guess his head got closer to my hand than I meant. And Inigo?
Cut to Inigo. He kneels, the sword held tight between his hands. Eyes closed, he faces the grove of trees, starts to talk, his voice low and strange.
I have been a drunk, a sinner, a wastrel, and a fool. But I've had my share of suffering. Father, I failed you for 20 years, but now our misery can end. Somewhere close by is the man who can help us. I can't find him alone. I need you.
And now he rises, eyes still closed.
I need you to guide my sword. Please, guide my sword.
Cut to the grove of trees as Inigo, eyes shut tight, walks forward, the great sword held in his hands. Fezzik, frightened, follows close behind. Cut to the secret knot that reveals the staircase. Cut to Inigo walking blind through the grove of trees. He moves to the secret knot, hesitates, then moves past it. Then Inigo stops. For a long moment, he stands frozen. Suddenly he whirls, eyes still closed, and the sword strikes home dead center into the secret knot, and the instant it does, cut to the tree. It slides away, revealing the staircase. Fezzik and Inigo look at each other, then start down. Inigo is in the lead while Fezzik follows close behind as we cut to Wesley, dead by the machine. Cut to Fezzik, rushing to Wesley, kneeling down, touching him. Then he looks at Inigo, shakes his head.
He's dead.
Cut to Inigo in despair. For a moment, he just sags.
It just isn't fair. And Grandpa.
The
Grandma.
kid?
Oh, kid? Oh, Grandpa, wait a minute.
Cut to interior, the kid's room. He's terribly excited and looks stronger than we've yet seen him.
What did the Fezzik man mean he's dead? He didn't mean dead.
The grandfather says nothing,
I
just
mean,
sits there.
Wesley's only faking, right?
He's not faking.
Cut to the kid, close up.
Oh, no. Who gets Humperdinck?
I don't understand.
Who kills Prince Humperdinck at the end? Somebody's got to get him. Indigo? Who?
Nobody kills him. He lives.
You mean he wins? Jesus, Grandpa, what did you read this thing to me for?
And he desperately fights for control.
You've been awful sick. You're talking about this book. You're taking this book very seriously. I think I should stop now.
Starts to get up.
It's okay. It's okay. Sit back down. Don't worry. I'm okay. I'm like Buttercup now. My heart is a secret garden. The walls are very high.
As the grandfather opens the book, starts to read, cut to Inigo in despair. We're back in the pit, the same shot as before. For a moment, he just sags.
This isn't fair. Well, yeah, go ahead. Well, if we Montoyas have never taken defeat easily, come on, Fezzik, and bring the body.
The body?
Have you any money? I used all mine on brandy.
I've got a little.
I just hope it's enough to buy a miracle. That's all.
As Fezzik takes the corpse, follows Inigo up the stairs, cut to Buttercup staring out the window of her room.
I know you're out there, Wesley. I know you're coming for me now.
As she continues to stare, cut to exterior hovel dusk. Inigo, Fezzik, Wesley approach the door. They knock. From inside the hovel, a little man's voice is heard. If Mel Brooks' 2,000-year-old man was really old, he'd resemble this guy.
Go away! Are you the Miracle Max who worked for the king all those years? The king's stinking sons fired me. Didn't you hear? That's a very painful subject. Now go away!
He shuts the window. They rap on the door.
Beat it, or I'll call the brute squad.
I'm on the brute squad.
We need a miracle. It is very important. I'm retired, and besides, why would you want someone the king's stinking son fired? I might kill whoever you wanted me to miracle. He's already dead. He is? Huh. Let me take a look.
He unlocks the door and lets him in. Cut to Inigo and Fezzik hurrying inside. Fezzik carries Wesley, who is just starting to stiffen up a little. He lays Wesley down on a bench by the fireplace.
Not so stiff as some.
He studies Wesley a moment as if making up his mind.
Sir, we are in a terrible rush. Don't you hurry me, Sonny. You hurry a miracle man. You get rotten miracles. You got money? 65. I've never worked for so little except once, when it was a noble cause, and... This is noble, sir. His wife is crippled. His children are in the brink of starvation. You are a rotten liar. I need him to help me avenge my father murdered these 20 years ago. Your first story was better. Where's that Bellows? He probably owes you money. I'll ask him.
He goes to get a huge bellows.
He's dead. He can't talk. Look who knows so much. It just so happens there's a difference. Different kinds of dead.
Max inserts the bellows in Wesley's mouth and starts to pump.
There's sort of dead and mostly dead. And lucky for you, this fellow here is only mostly dead. Once they're all dead, there's only one thing you can do. What's that?
He stops pumping.
I'll give you a hint. It involves digging and burying.
He starts pumping again.
Hey, what's so important? What you got worth coming back for? Sometimes it takes a while for the bellow cram to work.
Cut to Fezzik jumping behind Inigo in panic as everybody stares out at Wesley lying there on the bench.
True love, you heard him. No one could ask for a more noble cause than that. Sonny, true love is the best thing in the world, except for cough drops. But he didn't say it. He very clearly said to blave, which as everyone knows means to bluff. So you guys were probably in a card game, and he got caught bluffing, and...
Liar! Liar!
Valerie, in ancient fury, storms out of a back room and toward Max.
Back witch?
I'm not a witch. I'm your wife. Oh, but I'm not sure I want to be anymore. It was true love, Max. True love. Oh, my God.
Don't say any more, Valerie.
He is afraid. Ever since Prince Humperdinck fired him, his confidence is shattered.
You said his name. You promised me you would never say that name.
Humperdinck, Humperdinck, Humperdinck.
I'm not listening.
He was right to fire you. At least he knows a phony when he sees one.
Nobody's hearing anything. But this is Buttercup's true love. Bring him back to life. He'll stop Humperdinck's wedding. He comes back to life and Humperdinck suffers? Humiliations galore. Now, that's a noble cause. Give me the 65. I'm on the job. Valerie, bring me my spell encyclopedia and the hex appendix.
Cut to Max as Valerie scurries after some large dusty books.
You understand, he won't be good for much right off. What parts can I count on? Let's see. Well, the wedding's at 8 tonight. That's 3 hours away, which means if we're lucky, the tongue will work and absolutely the brain, and he might be able to walk a little if you give him a nudge to get him started.
Cut to Fezzik and Inigo crowding around Max as he particularly licks his lips at something in one of the books.
Valerie, listen to me. These ingredients, what a recipe. Toad dust, volcanic mud, ale marrow.
As Max drones on,
Grandpa, can we skip on here? I'm not crazy about recipes.
You don't want to know how they make it?
I just want to know if it works.
dissolve to exterior lump. This lump is somewhat smaller than a tennis ball. Pull back to reveal Max and Valerie, exhausted, looking at the lump with beatific pleasure, as Valerie, cooking utensil in hand, covers the thing with what looks like chocolate. Inigo and Fezzik stare at the thing too, but more dubiously.
That's a miracle pill?
The chocolate coating makes it go down easier. Oh, but you have to wait 20 minutes for full potency.
Cut to Inigo taking the pill as Fezzik takes Wesley, who is stiff as a board now.
Thank you for everything. Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
She doesn't either. They drop their arms, stare silently and sadly out as we cut to Prince Humperdinck in his wedding suit. Rugen is with him. They're standing on a terrace outside the prince's chambers.
Yellen has the 100 brutes.
Waiting with him outside the main gates. I've brought 4 men with me. They're the only guards inside the castle.
What else is there? I've got the boots of the Gilder army officer, and I'll track around in the mud after I've killed her. I'll say I saw them making their escape, and the boot prints will prove it. It's not much of a case, but it's proof enough. No one ever likes to doubt you when you run a country. We should be at war by morning, if God is by our side.
Now, as they move inside, cut to Fezzik, Inigo, Wesley at the top of the outer wall of the castle. They look down to the front gate of the castle. The 100 brutes are visible. Cut to Fezzik, thunderstruck by how many brutes there are. Upset, he turns to Inigo, who is concentrating unsuccessfully, trying to prop Wesley up against a wall.
Inigo, there's more than 30.
What's the difference? We've got him. Help me here. We'll have to force feed him.
Has it been 20 minutes?
We can't wait. The wedding's in a half an hour. We must strike. It's a hustle and bustle beforehand.
During this, Fezzik, using all his strength, has managed to get Wesley into the right-angled sitting position while Inigo brings out the miracle pill.
Open his mouth and tilt his head back.
How long do you think we'll have to wait before we know if the miracle's on or not?
Cut to Inigo, pill in hand, drops it into Wesley's mouth.
Your guess is as good as...
I'll beat you apart. Or I'll beat you... I'll beat you apart. I'll take you both down together.
I guess not that long.
Inigo and Fezzik react. Wesley is the only one not amazed.
Why won't my arms move?
He sits there immobile, like a ventriloquist dummy.
You've been mostly dead all day.
We had Miracle Max make a pill to bring you back.
I can't move my legs either.
I'm sure that will come. Just don't try and overdo.
Why am I on this wall? Who are you? Are we enemies? Where's Buttercup?
Let me explain. Puzzle. No, there's too much. Let me sum up. Buttercup's marrying Humperdinck in little less than a half an hour, so all we have to do is get in, break up the wedding, steal the princess, and make our escape after I kill Count Rugen.
That doesn't leave much time for dilly-dally.
He's watching his toes, which are wiggling now.
You just wiggled your toes. That's wonderful.
I've always been a quick healer. So, what are our liabilities?
There is but one working castle gate, and it is guarded by 100 men.
And our assets?
Your brains, Fezzik's strength, my steel.
Cut to Wesley, absolutely stunned.
That's all? That's the grand total? It's impossible. If I had a month to plan, I might come up with something. But this?
He shakes his head miserably from side to side. Cut to Inigo and Fezzik.
You just shook your head. Doesn't that up your spirits?
My brains, your strength, and his steel against 100 men, and you think my head jiggling is supposed to make me happy? Can you imagine what it's like for me sitting here wiggling my toes like my true love marries my murderer? I mean, if we even had a wheelbarrow, I mean, that would be something.
Where did we put that wheelbarrow the albino had?
Over the albino, I think. Okay. Maybe we can get a wheelbarrow.
Well, why didn't you list that among our assets in the first place?
And slowly, all by himself, he starts to stand.
What I wouldn't give for a Holocaust coat.
There we can't help you.
Will this do?
Where did...
Well, you were after the eel marrow. Max gave me this to help gather volcanic mud. It fits so nice, he said I could keep it.
Wesley now starts very slowly to totter along the wall.
All right, come on. I'll need my sword eventually.
Why? You can't even lift one.
True, but that's hardly common knowledge.
As he topples swiftly off the wall, Fezzik reaches out and sets him straight again.
Thank you. Now, there may be a problem once we're inside.
I'll say, how do I find the Count? Once I do, how do I find you again? And once I find you again, how do we escape? Once...
Don't pester him. He's had a hard day.
Right. Sorry.
Cut to a shot of the three of them in profile. They move along in silence for a time, then these whispered words come to us in the wind.
Inigo.
What?
I hope we win.
Cut to interior around Buttercup's chamber door. Buttercup in her bridal gown, and she's incredible. It's not just her beauty. There's a tranquility about her now. We pull back to reveal the prince, standing in her chamber door beckoning. Rugen and 4 guards stand behind her.
You don't seem excited, my little muffin.
Should I be?
Brides often are, I'm told.
I do not marry tonight.
Cut to Buttercup, and she couldn't seem more serene.
My Wesley will save me.
Cut to her Wesley, walking on the ground now, but still in the darkness by the wall. Inigo moves alongside. Fezzik brings up the rear, dragging the wheelbarrow. Wesley stares, and we cut to exterior around the main gate of the castle. The main gate of the castle and Yellen standing there, flanked by his 100 brutes. Cut to Wesley and Inigo and Fezzik, looking out at the enemy. This is it. Inigo and Fezzik shake hands. Wesley can't even do that, so they raise his arm for him. Each of them shake it, and as they silently start to get out of the wheelbarrow into proper position, cut to an absolutely gem-like little chapel. Pull back to reveal the most intelligent-looking, the most oppressive-appearing clergyman imaginable. Buttercup and Humperdinck kneel before the clergyman. Behind them sit the mumbling old king and queen. Standing in the back is Count Rugen. The 4 guards are in position, flanking the chapel door.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
He has an impediment that would stop a clock.
Marriage, the blessed arrangement, the dream within a dream.
And now, from outside the castle, there begins to come a commotion.
The dream of love, wrapped within the greatest dream of everlasting West. So if you think of eternity as your friend, with will you forever.
The commotion is louder now, and cut to Prince Humperdinck turning quickly, giving a sharp nod to Count Rugen, who immediately takes off out of the chapel with the 4 guards, as we cut to the brutes and Yellen by the gate, for it is indeed they who are making the commotion, frightened, pointing off stage as we cut to their point of view. And it's a bit unnerving. A giant seems to be floating toward them out of the darkness. A giant in a strange cloak, with a voice that would crumble walls.
I am the dread pirate Roberts, and there will be no survivors.
Cut to the brutes and Yellen, panicking a little greater now. Cut to the giant floating closer.
My men are here, and I am here, but soon you will not be here.
Cut to Yellen, keeping the brutes in position, or trying to, shouting orders, instructions as the brutes hold. Now cut to Fezzik as he seems to be floating because he's standing in the wheelbarrow as Inigo, hidden behind him, busts a gut, pushing it toward the brutes. Wesley walks calmly by Inigo.
Now, Wesley, should we do it? Man in Black.
Yes, we shall. Yeah, light him.
Cut to the brutes as the giant bursts suddenly happily into flames.
The Dread Pirate Roberts take no survivors, never survivors! All your worst nightmares are about to come true! The Dread Pirate Roberts is here for your souls!
Cut to Yellen as suddenly the brutes just scream and take off in a wild panic. Cut to interior the chapel.
Skip to the end.
Have you the wing?
As Humperdinck whips out the ring, the screams are very loud outside.
Here comes my Wesley now.
Your Wesley is dead.
Buttercup only smiles, shakes her head.
I killed him myself.
Then why is there fear behind your eyes?
Cut to Prince Humperdinck. And she's right. It's there. Cut to Rugen and the guards tearing down a long castle corridor, and cut to Yellen, pressed against the main gate. Inigo's sword points at his throat. Fezzik removes his Holocaust cloak, an asbestos-like garment that is still aflame. Wesley looks at Yellen.
Hand me his sword. Get us the key.
The gate key. I have no gate key. May my parents sizzle forever in hell if I am lying. Tear his arms off, Fezzik.
Fezzik steps towards him.
Oh, you mean this gate key?
As he whips it out, hands it to Fezzik, runs like hell, and cut to Fezzik, putting the key in the lock, pulling the great gate open, and as Inigo helps Wesley inside, cut to Humperdinck and Buttercup and the impressive clergyman.
Man and wife. Say man and wife.
All right, all right. Man and wife.
Escort the bride to the honeymoon suite. I'll be there shortly.
And as he dashes off, cut to Buttercup, standing there, dazed.
Wesley didn't come. And he said he always would.
Cut to Count Rogan and his 4 warriors racing through the castle as they reach a complex intersection of several corridors. Reuben stops, incredulous, as we cut to Wesley, Inigo, and Fezzik moving toward them. Wesley moves very slowly, Yellen's sword dragging along the ground like a stiff dog leash. Wesley simply hasn't the strength to raise it. Cut to Count Rugen as the confrontation is about to start.
Hello.
Rugen says,
Kill the dark one and the giant, but save the third for questioning.
and as his warriors start to draw their swords, camera zooms to Inigo as a great shriek of battle comes rippling from his throat and he charges the 4 warriors who shield Rugen. And maybe the warriors are good, but maybe they're even better than that. But they never got a chance to show it because this is something now. And this is Inigo gone mad. And the 6-fingered sword has never flashed faster, and the 4th warrior is dead before the first one has even hit the floor. There's a pause, then...
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Cut to Count Rugen. For a moment, he just stands there, sword in hand. Then he does a most unexpected thing. He turns and runs the hell away. Cut to Inigo, momentarily surprised, then taking off after him, and cut to Rugen running toward a half-open, heavy wooden door, and cut to Wesley, who has never really stopped his slow walk. Fezzik is with him, and they head down one of the corridors, and cut to Rugen, slamming the heavy wooden door shut and locking it just as Inigo throws himself against it. He tries again. No kind of chance.
Fezzik, I need you!
Cut to Fezzik with Wesley walking slowly away. He calls back.
I can't leave him alone.
Cut to Inigo desperately pounding at the heavy door.
He's getting away from me! Fezzik, please!
Be right back.
And as he takes off toward the intersection where Inigo's voice came from, cut to Wesley dragging his sword along. And now he's alone. Ahead, 2 corridors cross. A large suit of armor marks the place. Wesley continues straight ahead. Cut to Buttercup walking with the king, the queen more sparingly several paces ahead.
Strange marriage.
Buttercup gently kisses him on the forehead. He's very surprised and pleased.
What was that for?
Because you've always been so kind to me, and I won't be seeing you again, since I'm killing myself once we reach the honeymoon suite.
Isn't that nice? She kissed me.
And on those words, cut to Fezzik attacking the wooden door. And he's big, but so is it. And it bends a little, but it doesn't break. Fezzik backs off now, takes a breath, then charges when he's close. He dives at the door, blasting it with everything he's got. And as the door splits open, Inigo cries, "Thank you," and dashes through. And Fezzik gets up, brushes himself off, hurries back to where he left Wesley, but as he approaches, cut to the intersection with the large suit of armor marking it, and Fezzik gaping, staring around at all these choices. Clearly he's confused, but he doesn't let it rattle him.
All your life you've been doing things wrong. Not this time.
So saying, he turns left. Alas, it's the wrong way. Wesley went straight. And as Fezzik starts to run, cut to Count Rugen, and he's running too, dashing through a dining room as he glances back. Cut to Inigo behind him, coming like a streak. And cut to Count Rugen, flashing out of the room, picking up his pace. He pulls out a deadly-looking dagger with a sharp point and a triangular-shaped blade, holds it hidden in his hand, and cut to Inigo, closing the gap closer and closer, and cut to Buttercup and the king and queen outside the honeymoon suite. She nods goodbye, walks inside as they toddle on.
But Gia said she was going to kill herself?
You and your hearing. Cut to Buttercup, shutting the door, crossing quietly to the far wall where there is a glorious display of hunting equipment. She looks, then takes the largest dagger. She seems very much at peace as she touches the knife to her bosom.
There's a shortage of perfect breasts in the world. Leave yours alone.
As Buttercup whirls, we cut to Wesley, lying on the bed. Yellen's sword is behind him. His voice sounds just fine, but he doesn't move. Now, cut to something that is moving, slowly, but we can't tell what it is yet until we pull back to reveal Inigo. And for a graceful guy, he's going through some pretty awkward contortions as this moving thing continues on its way. And by now it's clear that we're in super slow motion, and the moving thing is Rugen's dagger, and it's heading straight for Inigo's center as he tries desperately to get out of its deadly way. As we cut to Count Rugen, the look on his face tells us his throw was true, and it was, alas, because now, cut to Inigo. And we're back in regular speed, and the dagger is struck, and he hurls back helplessly against the wall of the room, sinks to his knees, eyes glazed, blood coming from his stomach. The room is going white on him.
I'm sorry, Father. I tried.
Cut to Count Rugen looking across the room at Inigo. He stares at Inigo's face, then he touches his own cheeks as memory comes.
You must be that little Spanish brat I taught a lesson to all those years ago. It's simply incredible. Have you been chasing me your whole life only to fail now? I think that's the worst thing I have ever heard of. How marvelous.
Forgive me, Father. Say you forgive me, please.
Cut to Count Rugen, leaning in a lazy triumph against a large table, watching as Inigo continues to bleed.
I wish I had my notebooks. What I'd give to know what you're feeling. At least answer this. The mental or the physical? Which pain is the worst?
Cut to Inigo as before, helpless on his knees. Cut to Wesley as before, helpless on the bed. Buttercup is covering him with kisses.
Why won't you hold me, Wesley?
Gently.
At a time like this, that's all you can think to say? Gently?
Gently.
As she continues to hold him, cut to Count Rugen, looking very much surprised.
Good heavens. Are you still trying to win?
Pull back to reveal Inigo struggling feebly, pulling the dagger from his stomach, holding the wound with his left hand. Rugen is pushing off from the table, sword in hand, moving in to kill Inigo.
You've got an overdeveloped sense of vengeance, and it's going to get you into trouble someday.
Cut to Inigo, watching the Count approach, and the Count flicks his sword at Inigo's heart. And there's not much Inigo can do, just kind of vaguely parry the thrust with his six-fingered sword, and cut to Count Rugen, his blade sinks into Inigo's left shoulder. Inigo doesn't seem to feel it. His other agonies are so much worse. The Count steps back, goes for the heart again. Cut to Inigo. As this blow comes, he's trying to use the wall for support and forcing himself to his feet. And it's not a roaring success of an attempt, but he does at least make some progress. And again, he manages to parry the thrust, and this time Rugen's sword runs through his left arm. Again, Inigo doesn't seem to mind, doesn't even seem to feel it. Cut to Count Rugen stepping back for just a moment, watching as Inigo continues to inch his way to his feet, and then, just before the Count is about to strike again, Inigo manages a little flick of his own, and Rugen hasn't expected it. And he jumps back, makes a little involuntary cry of surprise, and cut to Inigo, slowly pushing away from the wall.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Cut to Count Rugen, suddenly going into a fierce attack, striking with great power and precision, for he is a master swordsman, and he forces Inigo easily back, drives him easily into the wall. But he does not penetrate Inigo's defense. None of the Count's blows get known. As Count steps back for a moment, cut to Inigo, pushing slowly off from the wall again.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Cut to the Count, and again he attacks, slashing with wondrous skill. But none of his blows get through, and slowly Inigo again moves forward.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Stop saying that.
Count Rugen, retreating more quickly around the table. Inigo drives for the Count's left shoulder now, thrusts home where the Count had gotten him. Then another move, and his blade enters the Count's left wrist, at the same spot where his left wrist was wounded.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
No!
And now the six-fingered sword strikes, and there is a slash bleeding along one of Rugen's cheeks.
Yes.
Power to promise me that.
The great sword flashes again, and now there is a parallel slash bleeding on Rugen's other cheek.
All I have and more, please.
Offer me everything I asked for.
Yes, yes. Say it.
I want my father back, you son of a bitch.
And on that, Inigo, almost too fast for the eye to follow, the sword strikes one final time, and cut to Count Rugen crying out in fear and panic as the sword hits home dead center. And cut to Inigo and Rugen, the sword clear through the Count. They're almost frozen like that for a moment. Then Inigo withdraws his sword, and the Count pitches down to cut to Rugen lying dead. His skin is ashen, and the blood still pours from the parallel cuts on his cheeks, and his eyes are bulging wide, full of fear. Cut to Inigo, staring at Rugen, and now Inigo does something we have never seen him do before. He smiles. Hold for just a moment on Inigo smiling. Then, cut to interior the honeymoon suite. Wesley lies as before. Not a muscle has moved. His head is still on the pillows. Yellen's sword is at his side. Buttercup is still alongside the bed. Her eyes never leave his face.
Oh, Wesley, will you ever forgive me?
What hideous sin have you committed?
Well, I got married. I didn't want to, but it all happened so fast.
It never happened.
What?
It never happened.
But it did. I was there. This old man said man and wife, and
Did you say I do?
well, no, actually, we sort of skipped that part.
Then you aren't married. If you didn't say it, if you didn't do it, would you agree, Prince?
Cut to Humperdinck entering the room, staring at them, his boots quite muddy. As he moves, racing across the room to the hunting weapons, grabbing a giant sword.
A technicality that will shortly be remedied. But first things first, to the death.
No. To the pain.
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase.
I'll explain it. And I'll use small words so that I'm sure you'll understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
That may be the first time in my life a man has dared insult me.
Cut to Wesley, lying there comfortably, his words quiet at first.
It won't be the last. To the pain means the first thing you will lose will be your feet, below the ankles, then your hands at the wrist. Next, your nose. No smell of dawn for you.
Cut to Humperdinck, gripping his sword, watching.
Next, my tongue, I suppose. I killed you too quickly last time, a mistake I don't mean to duplicate tonight.
I wasn't finished. Next will be your left eye, then your right.
And then my ears, I understand. Let's get on with it.
Cut to close-up Wesley, huge.
Wrong! You will keep your ears you will keep, and I'll tell you why.
Cut to Humperdinck, and now he stops. And the look that was in his eyes at the wedding, that look of fear, is starting to return. Cut to Wesley.
So that every shriek of every child at seeing your hideousness will be yours to cherish. So that every babe that weeps at your approach, every woman that cries, oh dear, what is that thing, will echo in your perfect ears. This is what to the pain means. And I will leave you in anguish, wallowing in freakishness, misery forever.
Cut to Humperdinck, doing his best to hide the fear that keeps building inside him.
I think you're bluffing.
Cut to Wesley, lying there, staring at him.
It's possible, pig. I might be bluffing. It's conceivable. You miserable vomitous mass. That I'm only lying here because I lack the strength to stand. But then again, perhaps I have all that strength after all.
And now, slowly, Wesley begins to move. His body turns, his feet goes to the floor, he starts to stand. Cut to Humperdinck, staring, eyes wide. Cut to Wesley, and now he is standing, sword in fighting position.
Drop your sword.
Cut to Prince Humperdinck, and he's so panicked he doesn't know whether to pee or wind his watch. He throws his watch to the floor. Cut to Wesley, speaking to Buttercup as Humperdinck stands frozen.
Tie him to the chair. Use the curtain sashes and be quick.
And as she gets to work, neither she nor Humperdinck see Wesley begin to tilt off balance. He grabs a nearby chair, manages to push himself back upright as we see Inigo moving along the corridor, hears their voices, and approaches the door.
Well, are you done?
Sort of.
Cut to the suite as Buttercup finishes tying Humperdinck, who is strapped in a chair. Inigo enters, looks around.
Where's Fezzik?
Isn't he with you?
Then we're trapped in the castle. He has the gate key.
Let's at least find some place to make a stand.
Help him,
Why does Wesley need helping?
because he has no strength.
Cut to Humperdinck, and now he starts wrestling mightily with his bonds.
I was right. I was right. You were bluffing. I knew it all the time.
Shall I dispatch him for you?
Thank you, but no. Whatever happens to him, or whatever happens to us, I want him to live a long life with his cowardice.
Oh, Inigo, help me, please. I'm all confused and miserable, and I need to see a friendly face.
They look at each other, move to the balcony, and cut to Fezzik, forlorn, leading 4 great white horses. He glances up, sees them on the balcony.
3 friendly faces. I've been so lost, Inigo. And I stumbled into the prince's stables and he had 4 white horses. And I thought that's how many of us there were, 4. If we ever found the lady. Hello, lady. So I brought them along in case we ever ran into each other. And I guess we just did.
Cut to Inigo, Wesley, and Buttercup looking down at Fezzik.
Fezzik, you did something right.
Don't worry, I won't let it go to my head.
And as he holds out his great arms, cut to something unexpected and very lovely. Buttercup floating through the air. What's happening, of course, is that she's jumping from the balcony so Fezzik can catch her. But her fall is in slow motion, so you might think she was flying. Cut to Wesley and Inigo, watching as Fezzik catches Buttercup, puts her on the first white horse.
You know, it's very strange. I've been in the revenge business so long. Now that it's over, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life.
Well, have you ever considered piracy?
Now from that, cut to the 4 glorious white horses with their 4 riders triumphantly racing through the night. Cut to Buttercup and Wesley. At last, their trails are done. They stop.
And on their ride to freedom, a wave of adoration swept over Buttercup. And she reaches for Wesley, and as he reaches for her, and
as Buttercup and Wesley begin their ultimate kiss, cut to interior the kid's bedroom. The grandfather stops reading.
And what? And what?
It's kissing again. You don't want to hear it.
I don't mind so much.
Okay. Since the invention of the kiss, there have been 5 kisses that were rated the most passionate and most pure. This one left them all behind. Rest now.
I promise.
Now you take good care of yourself. You listen to your mother. You do what she says.
I will.
All right. So long.
Grandpa? Maybe you could come over and read it again tomorrow?
As you wish.
The grandfather puts the book by the kid's bed table, gives him a kiss, turns out the light, leaves, and the instant he's gone, cut to the kid, like a whirlwind, grabbing the book, grabbing a flashlight from the bed table drawer, and he hides them both. The book and the light under his covers, flicks the flashlight on, flips the book open, starts turning pages. What we see are some of the high points of the story we've gone through. Blinks, really, moving from moment to moment, starting with Buttercup meeting the crowd the first time, so beautiful, and now Buttercup on horseback, starting to fall as Fezzik touches her neck. And the man in black is next in his black sailboat, and Buttercup dives into the water, and the shrieking eel as Fezzik rips it apart. The cliffs of insanity now, Fezzik climbing, and Vizzini cutting the rope, and the men in black clinging to the cliffs, and Inigo swearing on the soul of his dead father that the man in black will reach the top alive, and the duel starting, and Inigo switching his sword from left hand to right, and the man in black switching his sword too, and Fezzik looking around idly as the man in black starts battling with him, and Vizzini crackling, falling dead, and Humperdinck tracing the duel, and the fire swamp as Buttercup disappears in the snow, sand, and Wesley, wounded and bleeding, fighting the ROUSs, and the albino appearing in the cage in the pit of despair, and the old lady booing Buttercup, and Inigo as Fezzik dumps him from the tub of hot water into the tub of cold, and Wesley as the death scream starts, and Miracle Max applying to the bellows, cram to Wesley, and Wesley as Inigo forces down the resurrection pill, and Fezzik bursting into flames, and Inigo wounded, his sword plunging into Rugen's heart, and Wesley standing, scaring the hell out of Humperdinck, who drops his sword, and Buttercup floating down into Fezzik's waiting arms, and the 4 white horses and their riders, and now cut to the kid in his bedroom, book clutched in his hands, and he looks startled, cocks his head as he hears something from outside the window. The sound of horses. The kid looks out his window, holds his breath, as we cut to outside the window, as here they come, silhouetted against the sky, Wesley and Buttercup, Inigo and Fezzik, riding their white horses. Cut to the kid staring out the window. His eyes go wider and wider as we cut to the 4 riders. They stop, look in at the kid. There's a pause. Then they beckon the kid, beckon for him to join them. Cut to the kid smiling. He's lost in his beautiful thoughts. Hold final. Fade out.
What a great ending. That's so cute.
Oh,
That was so cute. This was so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was great scripting. Great job, everyone. Awesome. And it is kind of fun to watch the different videos. You see everybody's like responses. You see them like involuntarily smiling. And
Yeah, I wasn't aware that happens in these. I'm gonna have to go back and watch them. I've only ever seen like the first one where it's just the person talking. I'm like, oh, okay, so whatever I'm doing isn't gonna be, oh no. You can see everybody when it uploads the second time. Oh no.
That was fun.
Yeah.
This was very fun though. This was a lot of fun.
My name is what? My name is who? My name is
Inigo Montoya.
Murder my father. That was sweet, guys. Thank you for that, everybody.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Definitely. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Angel. Wow, man. You had me dying. You had me dying.
Good
That was
stuff,
good.
bro. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to call it
Very
individually because
special.
everyone. What,
Yeah.
Angel? Sorry.
Marriage is a very special.
You did
That's
so
awesome.
well on that.
That was hard not to laugh on.
Dude, and then Heather,
You like
man,
my
way to
hat?
step up to the plate. That last little part with Fezzik, you know, with the big booming voice, man, you showed up, dude. That was impressive. Woo-hoo.
I remember from watching it. I just, I could mimic it.
I got scared for a second.
It was really good.
Yeah,
I wanted
love
to either be Buttercup or one of the villains because I knew I could just knock the villains out of the park.
Yeah, that was good.
It's good.
Yeah, Angel, I saw the
Is
hat.
what brings us together today.
I looked down and I'm like, what? I'm like, that's awesome. No,
Like,
but
what-
everybody's role. I was gonna say, like Vicki, both of those, like, so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Really nicely done.
Yeah,
Dude, when you
Valerie.
did that,
Fantastic
I
job
like.
tonight. It was just really good.
Do you guys remember? What's that? Army of Darkness. There's like one person that comes out and she's like, "You feel bloodthirsty follows them all." Right? That was like Vicki to a T. If you ever read that one, you got that role for sure.
I love how it even mentioned the witch and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
I was like,
serious.
That was so good.
perfect.
It's like really funny. Like there's like a lot of good stuff that they did in this writing. Like, I mean, they like a lot of the times, like when they go through a series of shots, like they'll either do a cut to, or I noticed like in the beginning, they just do like ellipses and then they just like use the ellipses to cut through that. And then like there was that one, like a reference to some guy that played a pirate in like the 1950s or something like that, you know?
Was it Errol
and then-
Flynn?
Errol Flynn.
Yeah. What was that one? It was like there are only 2 of the greatest sword fights in history, and the second one will be later in the movie.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's like
That was
that's
so awesome.
super funny, man. Way to write that into your own script, dude.
Yeah, some confidence too, right
Yeah.
there. Just kidding.
That's serious, dude.
But then also pressure of how good it has to be.
Yeah, serious, dude. What did you say? There was like 5 kisses
Mhm.
that were like the
This
most
was
passionate.
the-
Just like put them in the dust.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say the casting of Prince Humperdinck, I think, was right on. So
Yeah,
Don did great.
yeah, Don for sure.
It's fun.
It was
William Goldman is one of the best screenwriters.
Yeah.
You know.
I hear all the name all the time. Remind us of some of the other films if you have them off the top of your head.
He wrote
Sorry
the
for pressure.
screenplay for The Stepford Wives. The not the new one with Nicole Kidman, but the original one with what was her name? Paula
Let's see.
Prentice, I think. And the chick who played Ginger on Gilligan's Island was one of the wives in that version, but the original one that was like done right after the thing. So I know he did the screenplay for that one.
Misery,
it was,
All the President's Men, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Marathon Man,
There you go.
Stepford
Classic.
Oh,
Wives.
wow.
Classic.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got quite a few there that he's done that are good.
And I did find
he's
it
done
interesting
so
that, like,
many too. So
Yeah,
many.
no, really.
that
Like, the novel, when because he wrote and adapted his own thing, but the novel, I don't know if anybody's read it, has kind of an interesting storytelling device, because he's telling it as, well, first of all, he reads it to his son or stepson, but not like a so he's also talking about how his dad read it to him when he was a kid and sick. And he actually says that it's a real book and he's just writing an adaptation of it. But his dad had read him only the good parts. So that's why if you read it, it's like the abridged version, like the abridged good parts version it says it on the book, but he actually wrote the story. So he's kind of trolling you, but it's very interesting storytelling device. Is like, so he's claiming that this is a flashback version retelling of the story that he learned from his dad, who then he tried to give it to his kid, and his kid was like bored with it because it's super long and boring and written in like this, an adaptation of a foreign language that he didn't understand. And I'm like, okay. But then the movie does this really interesting thing where it's like, it's a story being told to somebody, like, the narrative tradition and everything of how you pass down stories. And, kids today don't really read enough, darn them. But I thought it was really cute because it's like, it's this complete switch, and it works in both mediums, really. Like the weird, like it's being told to somebody. So everything that you see is basically what the kid is imagining, which I thought was a really clever plot device. Actually, it was very cool. So
yeah, definitely cool. I want to talk more on that, but before, in case anyone has to go, let's do our quick little things, and then we can talk some more. So the amazing Boo and Valerie, Vicki Dykes. If you want to say where they can find you and anything else before we go around and continue talking.
I'm on Instagram as I'm still in the movie.
I know, I felt weird breaking it up, but I was like, just in case.
Say it in the voice. Say it, Valerie.
I remember now. Yoga Grandma 7 is my Instagram, and Vicki Dykes on Facebook, and guess email vdykes@shaw.ca. So if anyone wants to get a hold of me, that's where I am.
All right. Hire her for those awesome roles. Don.
Lampasone, myname.com. You can see some of my work. I have a small production company in Columbia, Maryland, and I do this stuff for a living. But acting is fun on the side on occasion, so I love acting. So it's my passion.
All right. And the dread Private Roberts, the man in black, Clint.
Yeah, dude. Hey guys, thank you so much for reading along with us tonight. My name is Clint Monroe. You can find me at Gems of Zen Productions on Instagram, or on Facebook. You can find me at just Clint Monroe 2017. Anyways, thank you for sticking along. I'm continuing to do some work, but I just wanted to take a moment to say that every time I come back to these table reads, I learn something new and fascinating about this absolutely wonderful cast that we have here. I won't divulge what I learned today, but it just strikes me as how profound and caring and kind and loving and supportive each member of this crew is. And so it's just an honor to work with you guys every day. So if anybody out here is watching and you want to volunteer for a read, come on down and you'll get to meet each and every one of these people. So thank you very much for another epic week of Table Read Tuesdays.
And if you want to hire them and work with them and get to know them yourself on your project, they're great people. And one of them is the Princess Buttercup, Petra.
Hi, Petra Stedman at Petra Stedman on Twitter. It's currently my only major social media thing, unless you want to try and find me on Facebook, which you can. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one. I'm a bit like Tigger in that regard. Yeah, one of these days I'm going to get other social media feeds, but at the moment, this is kind of the major exposure that I have, is coming and reading with these amazing people and having fun doing interesting and fun table reads. So, because it's a lot of fun. So.
Thank you. And Toni, who we appreciate the reading, and you do a marvelous acting, so I felt bad we didn't give you some more parts this time, but please. And you're so busy. You have so much going on right now.
I have a couple things. That's okay. I think my stuff from this last weekend and and this upcoming weekend makes up for not having roles on this one. That's all right. You're forgiven this time. Yeah, so Toni, Flora, you can find me on Facebook. Our page is active for the series that I'm a part of in wonderful Golden Valley, Arizona. We're filming something called Captain Valiant, The Adventures of Captain Valiant. And I play Commander June Erickson. So it's a blast. We don't quite have a full episode done yet, but we're getting there. Filming again this weekend. Let's see, last weekend I did a little it was a documentary style film out in LA. I drove to LA to do it. It was a blast. So hopefully that individual is going to be submitting to Sundance Ignite, a young director trying to get into more directing. So that was a blast too. I got to play a crazy person. So always fun.
So just being yourself, kind of.
Just pretty much, no big deal.
Just method acting, following yourself.
I mean, you must be a great actor to play crazy then, because that's so far.
Oh man.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So Hollywood by the sea and Hollywood of the desert right there. And next we have Fezzik. Heather Lee Cameron.
Hello, my name is Heather Lee Cameron. I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a creator. You can get to know me through my YouTube channel, The Storm and Latter-day Saint, and all my other professional links are there. I would love some work. I'm looking for work. Please go to my channel, get to know me, hire me, have a conversation with me. If you're looking for a good actor, a good writer, a good creator, whatever, I'm open to conversations. Thank you.
Conversations are good. And one with the quickest wit and the greatest conversation, Angelina Peterson, the Sicilian.
No, don't say the Sicilian. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to the script at all. I just like it.
How sweet. So I'm Angelina Peterson, or Angel, and my business on Facebook is Your Adored Life. It's a new business. I'm just getting it going and everything. And I actually want to go back to do a little shout out to Heather, which I don't think you realize, but I looked up your YouTube channel and I've been watching some of your videos, and they're really great.
She told me about some of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that because.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Really good wisdom in there. So.
Oh, thank you.
So you're more than just an actress and a producer and a writer. You've got a great mind. So.
Oh,
and big
kind
heart. Yes, big heart.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. You're supposed to
You want me to keep going? Let's see those tears. That's what we're all about here. Bring out.
You're such a loving person, Angelina. Like, you're all loving people, and I'm grateful that I'm getting to know you so well. Just know that you're all loving people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we you have more. Sorry, go ahead.
Nope. No, I just said I agree.
Okay. I was going to say, before we drown in tears, I was going to say, if anyone needs to go, that's where we'll cut it. Thank you, everyone, for coming to, this amazing film. And we're going to keep talking about it if someone wants to stay and keep talking about it. But
Jacob the humble, who doesn't talk about himself. The humble.
Jacob, talk about yourself.
Jacob, talk about
I
this new
am
house you
Jacob
got,
Patrick,
dude.
and
You bought this with the proceeds from Table Read Tuesdays, huh?
yes, the negative person.
Now
That's
living
a
in
great
the
castle.
So,
Gas
yes,
party in
thank
his
you.
house.
Yeah.
Totally.
Working toward it. So keep coming. Keep visiting Table Read Tuesdays.
I'll hang out in that tower there. That looks fun.
So yeah, 20 years background in computer animation, some previs, working on some rides, movies, TVs, games, all that, and made a couple of my own short films, but that's why we're here, to read more about from the masters and how they did it, and like, you can't get more masterful than this script in this movie. And stuff,
And he's a very humble director. He's too humble to give himself praise. So we can all do it. Let's say something nice about Jacob.
Oh, there's
no, thank you.
So much. He's so creative. No. He's
Angelina knows not to mention that stuff to me. I have to.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to everybody else. So
I didn't know I was going to be the one who has to go right now.
Yeah. All right, just that. That's all. No.
Well, thank you for the kind thoughts. All right, so if you have to go, don't feel bad. Take off, and everybody else. What were we talking about on Princess Bride? You were finishing up on something, Petra, and I was going to add to that. Oh, I don't.
Were you talking about the books, like the difference between the books and the
Oh
movie?
yeah,
The book and the
yes,
movie? or
good
something?
memory, Heather. So behind the scenes, I read some stuff, and I guess the dad, they were saying he wrote it for his two daughters, and he asked them like, "Hey, what do you want me to write about?" And one of them said a princess, and the other one said a bride. He's all right. It's the Princess Bride.
There
And
you
so,
go. But yeah, no, it's the book is actually a really fascinating read, and there's a lot of stuff that they obviously couldn't put in the movie version. So when he was adapting it, he's like, okay, we probably can't put this in here, but we can't put this, and he switched a lot of it. Buttercup is a lot more bearable in the movie. She's gorgeous, but an idiot in the book. I mean, this girl is, it takes her a long time to figure out, oh, that's okay. So I'm in love with him. I would not have figured that out. And yeah, the end of the book's actually quite depressing. I vastly prefer the movie version for at least a happy ending. But the book is a fantastic read, if nothing else.
wow, that gives me curious and sad. I don't think I'm going to read it, and I want to ask, but I don't want any spoilers on the video.
Okay, you should read it at least once, or listen to the audiobook. The audiobook, especially the full cast version, is hilariously done.
Does the cast read the audiobook?
Not that cast, unfortunately, but there is a full cast read and then like an audio version that was just one person doing like all the parts and stuff. But it's really, yeah, it's a really fantastic read because it does go back and forth between William Goldman, the author, and the character of William Goldman as he is in the book, which is actually pretty good. So yeah, I highly recommend read it at least once at some point or have it read to you. Audiobooks are a fantastic way to ingest information if you have to go
I don't think I have the I can't tolerate audiobooks. I prefer paper books. I can't even
definitely read it. Yeah,
Kindle
I have several copies of it. I have 3, I think, if you want to borrow a copy of the book.
And I love audiobooks. Like I can drive and I can listen to it and read. I can do it while I work. So yeah.
I don't know how you tolerate it. I can't stand Kindles. I can't stand audiobooks. I can only stand paper copies of books.
Wow. See, and mine will be the difference. Like it's hard for me to just sit and just focus on just words. Like even though imagine like because I'm more just reading it. It's not like for me that's hard and I can't do that. That's why I partially love this because this helps me read more scripts with everybody reading part of it with me.
I prefer,
doing a lot of the hard work.
I find the process of actually sitting with a book quite relaxing. It allows me to have time away from technology. I consider that my time away from technology for the day.
No, that's great.
I wish I did. For at least half an hour, maybe up to an hour, just relaxing. And it's weird, I know, but
no, it's not weird.
Not a lot of people use books anymore.
Well, if we learned anything about Grandpa, right, there was a point when books were technology, right?
They were the TV.
Yeah. It's like TV, it was called books. But it's like, I mean, I'm just a weirdo because I just love reading and entertainment in all forms. So I don't care if I'm reading it or having someone read it to me, or if I could inject it into my head, like directly via Matrix style uplink, I would be very happy. I just can't do that. So if whether I listen to it or am reading it myself, and half the time, if I've heard an audio version and then I read the book, I still hear the audio in my head, which is a very fascinating way to go through life. I can tell you that. But it's I love reading.
So. Well, my family didn't have a computer until I was maybe 8 years old because we were poor, and I didn't really use the internet for really anything in school till like high school or anything. Technology wasn't in my life really.
Yeah, well, a lot of us didn't have it then either because we're old and they didn't exist.
Exactly. I don't think I had a computer until I was in the Army at like 22.
Yeah, and see, like I was like 3, I think, when I was playing with my first computer, but that's
we were going the other way. We're talking about the other. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, like my mom, and I'm actually, I'm good God, I'm in my late 30s now. No, anyway, I'm past my mid 30s, but my mom worked with computers when I was a kid, so
Do you guys know what an Atari 600 is?
Yes, actually, and a Commodore 64, and the TRS, nicknamed the trash. Yeah, I played on those gigantic boxy things that you see in really, really old if you see War Games or anything, I played on stuff like that, and I played on stuff, all through the 90s and whatever too. But yeah. One of my friends actually has a giant repository of books, movies, film, television, whatever, that he nicknamed the Whopper Jr. after the supercomputer in War Games, which I found really funny. And the ironic thing, I think his actually has more computing power than that did. So, but yeah, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was there something earlier you're saying, Petra? I think before, and I said we'll talk about it afterwards. Do any of us remember what that was?
Yeah, I remember what it was. We were talking about the two different versions. So there was the Cliffs of Insanity version.
Oh, that's actually just it's a special edition of the movie with just like kind of like pop-up trivia, or you can have there's like a couple of alternate versions of the scenes. But for the most part, it's just the same thing, but with like trivia, and there's like games on the DVD and stuff like that. It's not a super different version of the movie itself, except for like one or two scenes that are expanded, or like they inserted alternate versions or takes that they thought. But for the most part, I consider the movie one of the best. It's basically a perfect movie in my humble opinion. Yep. It's like, I love it. I think from beginning to end, I think it was cast pretty much perfectly, performed pretty much perfectly. I think they put as much stuff in it as they could have to make it visually interesting without completely blowing their budget. There isn't, everything in it is practical and visual and stuff like that, which I find amazing. I love that, like, one of my favorite stories about it is originally there phases in fight choreography that are called phrases. So it's like a little bit like, they do this and then they move and do this, and each one of those is called a phrase. The first one was about 50 phrases. They did it. It was like maybe 2 minutes when they were done. And the director was like, is that it? So they came back. I think the final fight has something like 250 phrases or not. It's several times longer. It goes over a bunch of terrain. And it's because they loved that. Not only did they have the technical skill, but they were willing to put in the work and practice to make it as good as it possibly could have been. And it's like, it's one of the best fight scenes in, movie history. And then the two guys that were doing it, both the fight choreographer, Bob Anderson, he is to fight scenes in movies what John Williams is to movie scores, to put it into perspective. I mean, he was like, he worked with Errol Flynn and Burt Lancaster and everything like that. He taught, Darth Vader and Alec Guinness how to fight for the Star Wars movies. He was the person that was choreographing like the original lightsaber battles. If you've seen a fight that involved swordplay from like 95 back, he probably had something to do with it. The man is just, yeah, he's amazing. So yeah, his stuff. And then the guys that were willing to actually do the work and create one of the most, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's incredibly solid in most places as far as fight choreography and interest and everything. It's brilliant to watch. It's amazing fun, if nothing else. And the only thing that bugs me is that I cannot unsee now when they do the flip. I cannot unsee the freaking ground moving where the crash pad is. I'm like, I never saw it as a kid, and I noticed a lot as a kid, and now I cannot unsee it.
And that's the one thing in the fight that is the stunt guy doing the flip. Everything else they did themselves and practiced for a long time.
Yeah, and that was a second grade Olympian, I think, that actually did the flip. I cannot for the life of me remember his name at the moment. I used to know this, but I don't. But yeah, he's that scene. Mandy Patinkin did do the little loop flip, but yeah, for the Wesley stunt double, that was an Olympian who did his flip, and then he just stands there, and I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. It's gorgeous. The entire fight's great.
Well, I just have one word in response to all that information. Inconceivable.
You're just like this amazing encyclopedia of Princess Bride, and I love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're a part of this movie, for sure.
You were showing off your sword while I was reading my lines, so I
know if that pops up, I mean, people are going to see
that. Can we see the sword? Oh, yes. Oh, goodness.
Wow.
That is my sword.
That looks like the Legend of Zelda.
I don't have my fencing sword, unfortunately. It's in storage somewhere, but I did have my
That's like Conan the Barbarian right there, man.
Yeah, his didn't have a hilt actually, but yeah, no, let me phrase that. His did have a hilt, just wasn't a bracelet like this.
Is that
Encyclopedia,
like a
dude.
legend
Encyclopedia.
Is that like
I
a
have
Legend of
the
Zelda
Petra
sword?
in my group of friends, which I'm never sure if I know they didn't mean it insultingly, but I sometimes like sure you didn't mean it insultingly. So when I forgot it. Yes.
Is that sword like a Legend of Zelda cosplay thing?
Actually, I walked into a thrift shop with one of my friends and we were looking at weapons and I happened to notice the scabbard poking out from behind the office door and asked how much it was. And he's like, you know how to wield it? So I walked over, asked if I could pick it up, proceeded to draw it out and do a couple of like sword passes over my hand and stuff like that. And he's like, for you, $20. I'm like, deal. So,
oh, nice.
Wow. It looks like it'd be a lot of fun in a huge field away from a bunch of people. Just
yeah,
on your
and I keep it I don't keep it as sharp as I probably could, but I do keep it close by in case I ever have to hit somebody with it. Woe betide the person who attempts to break into my house, because I don't think they're expecting a blonde coming at you with a sword. But it is fun. So
you should dress up in Ocarina of Time Zelda gear and for Halloween and just carry that on your belt.
But would I be Link or Zelda?
Or go to like a Comic-Con this year and cosplay as Zelda.
That would be a lot of fun. There are actually quite a few sword wielding girls I wouldn't mind, and guys even for that matter, just do a femme flip on it that I would not mind dressing up as.
I don't know what the policy is on real weapons though. You might have to get it marked.
Yeah, or peace tied. I mean, I could leave it in the scabbard. So I've done that before. I had a crossbow that I took to. It wasn't a convention; it was a grouping, but you had to have it peace tied if you were walking around in public. So I'm good on peace tied weapons. They stay where they are. They're not loaded or brought to bear. So it's good. They're just fun to have.
Interesting.
Rivalry Tuesdays is getting more interesting every week, man. I'm learning so much. I'm taking notes over here, man. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who ever needs a sword, just ask.
Right.
You're in the States?
I need a sword just to even make sandwich. Just use a sword to spread your butter.
Yeah, dude, that's like one of my favorite John Belushi scenes of all time, right? Remember, he's the samurai dude on SNL, and he's like making a sandwich with a katana.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
There's actually there's a post that somebody did.
You guys have to see it. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah, no,
John Belushi,
it's a great classic.
super old original SNL. Yeah. Some guy walks in there to it was called like Samurai Deli or something like that.
Yeah,
it's hilarious, man.
Yeah, no, there was a post that was going around the internet. God, it's got to be like 10 years or so at this point. And it's just the various types of knives. So it's like switchblade, highly illegal, butter knife, good for putting toast on jam. And then they have like a cutlass. It's like, good for running people through. I don't know. You could probably spread butter on a bagel if you wanted to. You live your best life. And I was like, I agree with that statement. It's good. Obviously clean it thoroughly when you're done, but yeah, it's fun stuff.
Any more Princess Bride specifics? Did you guys notice anything different in the script than the film, or anything special about the script?
There were more scenes in the script, a few more scenes that I didn't see in the film.
Yeah, it's interesting. They cut out a lot of stuff, but also added stuff. I mean, usually you'll put things on the cutting floor, right, and things will be taken out. But there was actually a decent amount in there that was not in the script. Like right here, for instance. This whole part was not in the script, right?
Yeah. Anybody want a peanut?
They had some of it, but I mean, and I'm trying to remember if the anybody want a peanut. I'm pretty sure the anybody want a peanut line wasn't in the book, but they do have a lot of rhyming.
I do remember the peanut line in the film. I do remember.
Yeah, no, but there was a lot of stuff that ended up in the film that was improvised or like expanded on. Like they pretty much just let Wallace Shawn go. So with a couple of the things, but yeah, as far as like expanding out the anybody want a peanut line, to the best of my knowledge, was improvised, and they just were coming up with stuff like rhymed, huh?
The paper cut with lemon.
I think we read that in
Billy Crystal improvised, another master of improvisation.
I saw it written in our chat, but I was waiting for it. I was like, isn't it coming up soon? And I totally missed it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Billy
No, they
Crystal.
did like
who
they did a
provides so
lot
much.
of interesting things.
Son fired me.
right?
Thank you for bringing that up. Maybe you'd like to give me a nice paper juice and pour a nice paper cut and pour lemon juice over it. It's like, yeah. Billy Crystal had some amazing lines that he came up with, but I mean, the cast in this thing was just chock full of people who either wrote or performed or both, like a lot of really classic comedy. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not Peter Sellers. It's the guy who worked with Dudley Moore and was his writing partner, who played the impressive clergyman, Peter Cook. And so, I mean, they wrote the original Bedazzled. They had this amazing like back and forth for classic humor, but it's like the guy's in a bit part and just makes it work. Yes, it was on the page, but he brought the page to life. So it's like, I mean, when you have, it's kind of like Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. Every single part you can conceive of is just crammed full of like a name that you will recognize. And if you don't, go find what they were put in there for, because there's a reason they were put in the movie. It's good stuff. So
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun. And it was there like just as far as the script writing format's concerned, like he did like there were a couple different things in there where he kind of like broke the rules, like the I guess the rules that they would say as far as like scene headings. Like there was a lot of times when they would skip a scene heading and use cut to instead, right? To clean up the page so that it's like, these rules that they talk about in script writing aren't.
Well, he used the really long, drawn out scene headings. They had like everyone in them and stuff.
Yeah,
it was kind of funny. It was just funny throughout how he did that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
like he was making a joke of it,
Yeah,
almost.
you might have been.
It flowed like a story. Like lots of times they use cut to as someone as just a general format thing, and there's a lot of debate if you should or not, and it's just cut to this, cut to that, and they use it, and it's just like going from one scene to another. But he worked that into the language. It's like cut to, and like as it's one sentence.
Yeah.
So it would almost feel unnatural to take out cut to in this.
Something that it's almost like when you're reading the script, I kept having this weird sensation of like a typewriter returning back to the thing. Like that's the part where it goes ding and it goes back to the beginning. I was like, it almost flows in this weird way that kind of like it wouldn't work as well almost if you took those out or something. Like you're reading, it's like, okay, and back over here, and back over here, and back over here. And it's just like, it keeps moving you. It's almost like a weird form of transition or something.
Yeah.
Like it keeps moving you to the next bit, which is really cool.
Even when he was describing things that weren't visual, it was good, because you got it, and those are things that you're not supposed to do, supposedly.
Yeah.
Describe things that, everything.
I think they were so good, I don't even remember that happening.
Yeah, I know.
I remember like he did like 3 different series of shots, like how to set up a series of shots. Like one of them, like I said, he did with ellipses. Another series of shots he set up with cut to this, cut to this, cut to this. And then another one he did was like a scene heading that said intercut. And then underneath that, he just wrote out in an action paragraph what the whole thing was. And so he like did it 3 different ways, It's really interesting.
He also like would do parentheticals that were too long.
Yeah.
And there should be action, but he just did them as parentheticals. And so when I was reading, I was like, oh, I should be reading this, and so because we don't usually read the parentheticals so much, but they take longer. But he would have some that were so long, it's like that's definitely action.
Yeah,
so
you're totally right.
That's not the right way to do that, but he's William Goldman.
He makes it work.
I know, it's like, how are we telling him that he's
He's only written like 100 movies.
Yeah.
Great.
No, I was actually, as we were mentioning who he was, I was looking through his filmography, and one of the ones that he wrote was The Ghost in the Darkness. And I don't know if any of you guys ever saw that one, but I watched that when I was just a wee child, and it's about these like lion man killers, that are like these ghosts in Africa. And that, dude, I remember watching that alone at night when I was a little kid in dark, and then I couldn't walk across like and turn the corner. Oh my God, there's a lion! So that dude has definitely etched himself onto my soul in this journey of life for sure.
One thing I'll mention, since a lot of us here are not only like actors or screenwriters, or we make our own stuff. A couple years ago, I went to a Q&A, and Rob Reiner was there for one of his films. I forget which one it was, maybe because some political stuff too, but he was saying, like, again, Rob Reiner made this, made Spinal Tap, made a bunch of amazing movies.
Mhm.
And he was saying he couldn't get funding for his film. Like, there's certain people you would think, like, oh, it's this person. They did these things. It has this name. Whatever they want to make, people just give them money. He's like, I could not get money for my film. I wanted to make this one. No one would get. I had to fund it myself and stuff. I'm like, what? So that was kind of just mind blowing to me, and opening that up to,
Yeah.
I think.
But
for-
also on the flip side of that is if you look at Easy Rider, like Peter Fonda went to everybody and said, hey, like, I got this movie about being like riding motorcycles cross country, and everybody's like, no, we're not buying that. And it's like, dude, it's Easy Rider, man. One of the quintessential bike movies of all time, you know? Yeah. For sure. Put a lot of people on the map.
What was the one that he couldn't get funding for, and did it get made eventually?
Oh yeah, no, it got made. We watched it, and that's when he was talking about it afterwards, the Q&A session. So he got it made, but he couldn't get the funding for it. Like, even at the end, like, I think most of it was up of his own money or other things. So,
Yeah.
But Don, you wanted to say something more? I'll look up the movie
I
while.
was just saying that's what's happening with, you guys have probably heard about Francis Ford Coppola and his venture, his $100 million that he's putting into his own passion project.
No.
Really?
Or more. Yeah, he couldn't get anyone to buy into his movie. It's, Francis Ford Coppola, that's, the
Right.
Godfather. It's like he can't get a movie made.
Yeah.
It's like it's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
It's hard for people who've made it too.
Yeah.
It's
I think the movie might have been Shock and Awe that I saw. But
Do you remember if you liked it or not?
I don't recall clearly. I don't think was totally my
It wasn't
type.
this caliber, I guess.
So
Didn't make
I mean,
this
it's
much of an
caliber. Like right now, if
impact.
I'm looking at if that is the one, it has Woody Harrelson in it, James Marsden, Tommy Lee Jones, other stuff. Like it's high caliber. But again, I love fantasies. Like this movie, like everyone said, this is perfect. Like again, like other movies, like everything just comes together to make it perfect. The story, the actors, the director. It's the perfect mixture.
To me, it's this one and the one we did a few weeks ago, Big Fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
Yeah.
there's other ones as well, but these two in particular. What's that?
I was gonna say another thing about this one, again, that it had the ties to Wizard of Oz. I want to say about this movie, and we read Wizard of Oz and we read Iron Giant. All three of these movies, marketing dropped the ball. Like they didn't know how to market this movie. Like Wizard of Oz, it wasn't famous and popular as soon as it came out. Not till like it got people saw it more. Same with Princess Bride. It didn't do amazing in the theater, and then once it came to like VHS, everyone's like, "Oh, I wish I saw that in the theater. Yeah, I want to see that." And they heard about it. Now everybody loves it. So, and same with Iron Giant. Like it got rushed and it didn't get an audience until afterwards.
Yeah, good point for that.
Well, I think, and also in some cases, it's like it even comes down to the marketing. You would figure it would be really simple if you know what type of film you're marketing. But it's like there's two things that come along and kind of shoot it in the foot. One is occasionally studio interference. You sign on to make this and they cut it and re-edited it and made you reshoot it and now it's this. Or the like the trailer, for whatever reason, is basically showing you an entirely different film. So either it fails to pique your interest, or it does pique your interest, you go see it, it's not the movie you expected, people start talking about that, and then nobody else goes to see it. It's like, I cannot wrap my head around when it turns out that it's like some type of marketing fail. It's like, what exactly were you trying to get people to come see? Because whatever movie you had in this trailer is not the one that people came and saw, or didn't go see because of the trailer that you put out there. So,
Or they give the whole story away from the trailer.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah, they don't care. They just want people to come. Like there's two things I hate about trailers. Like one is if, like you said, Angel, like I saw this person that is like a trailer editor, and they're like, if I sum up the whole movie in 2.5 minutes, I did my job. I'm like, what? No. Fire that guy, blackball them, never let them work again. That's absolutely not how a trailer should be made. And then the other thing that annoys me that they do is when they give away a twist. Like there was a Terminator Generation. I don't know what movie, which version it was, but
Genesis.
in the movie,
You're like, why would you?
I was trying to say Genesis. I don't know if that's the one, but the guy in the movie again, he thinks he's a real person the whole time, and then in the middle of it, he finds out he's a machine and he didn't know it. They show the shot in the trailer of him cut open with machine stuff inside, and I'm like, and you know, the director, the writer, the production team, everybody's like, oh, we got to keep this quiet. We got to keep this hush. Nobody let this out. Nobody let it out. And then it's in the trailer. I'm like, oh, it's like, if
Dude,
I
that-
know,
that
I'm going to watch
you
the
know
movie.
that somebody
Spoiler-
got
spoiler
fired,
warning
right?
for
Like
a movie
on
that
the
hardly
spot
anyone saw.
fired.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
know I'm going to watch a movie.
Spoiler
I
warning for a
will
movie
not
that
watch the
hardly
trailer.
anybody saw, I think, unfortunately. But
I don't-
one of the Terminator movies, it's like they made John Connor into a Terminator, and it's like, do you have any idea how cool it would have been if you hadn't told people that? But in the trailer, I think it was actually I think it might have been the first trailer, but it was definitely in the second one. They show I said spoilers. I did say spoilers. I warned before I started talking. But it's like there's a scene of him, his hand is going out like this, and it's like you see the nanobots like stitching it back together. I'm like, dude, why?
They
I
did a
find
good
it-
job with the Spider-Man.
Yeah, but it's like
Oh, I haven't seen it.
The
I know, no,
the line
that
about the
didn't-
new
no
Spider-Man
spoilers,
in the trailer.
spoilers.
So I won't say what it is that they
Okay.
did.
Oh, yeah. That was great that
I
they.
thought they did a good job of that. My son was like telling me all the things that were going to happen, and I'm like, it's not in the trailer though.
Yeah, but that was actually
the holding
see,
back and the patience.
Yeah, they did a very good job with that.
Yeah.
No, that's almost
that
another
one.
thing where it's like if you have we're in such a different culture now though, so it's like an hour after a trailer drops now, you have
Yeah.
people going through it frame by frame. There's
Oh
like
yeah,
20-minute
absolutely.
reaction videos to a 2-minute trailer, which is
Yep.
fine. And they've even done, this blows my mind, they've done polls and studies of like random samplings throughout the country, and people will still go see a movie even if the trailer gave away every single twist and told you exactly what's going to happen in the movie. People will still go see a movie if they want to go see it, if they're intrigued to go see it. And I'm like, if I had a twist in my movie and a trailer gave that away, I would strangle someone with celluloid. I would, but that's me. But it's, I don't
Imagine
know.
Sixth Sense. They have that.
Yeah, in the
Oh,
trailer
wow.
it
Yeah,
says, I see
now.
ghosts. Like, that's the first thing or the last thing of the trailer.
Yeah, it's like, but that wasn't the twist though. So it's like
Yeah.
when you have something like that actually made people more inclined to go see it. And
Yeah.
I still love like the bit of trivia that like the main reason Haley Joel Osment got it, one, he wore a suit to his audition and no one else did, even though they're casting Kid. And two, he walks in and he gives his audition and they're like, oh, that was really good. And he's like, oh, I read it like 3 times last night. They're like, your part? He's like, no, the entire script. He read the entire script like 3 times the night before his audition. I'm
Wow.
like, that's dedication. That's, I mean,
Quite a
or
kid.
a really good script too, which is also
And for the kid.
Oh, yeah.
I probably mentioned this before, but since we're talking about kid actors and auditions, have you guys seen Elliot for E.T.?
Yes. Oh,
like-
Henry James. No, not Henry James. Henry.
I don't know.
what is his
I'm terrible.
I
with
won't know
names.
the name, but
Henry
doing the
James.
audition for E.T.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that, I'll try and find it and I'll put in the link in this. And you mentioned something earlier, Clint, about another movie or another thing. The SNL skit with the knife and butter.
Oh,
If you find that, put it in the comments.
You're right.
Yeah, I'll find that and put it in the comments or send it to you guys because that audition, like that's how it's done. That's amazing. You got to watch that. It's so good.
Mhm, it's so good. So with reading The Princess Bride today, I think it was 2 days ago. I didn't realize that it was even put up, that Vicki put that up as a suggestion. You're right, because we're filling in for a script that we couldn't get. So in that script that we couldn't get, doing all the work that we do behind the scenes, when I couldn't find it, I wrote The Princess Bride as an option. Nobody knew about that except for Jacob.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it got,
Join the tree.
yeah, until yesterday.
Until I showed her the thing, like, hey, it looks like
Yeah.
Princess Bride is going to win. And it's
I
like,
thought
Like,
we were
I
still
still doing
doing.
entirely different one because I didn't even see Princess Bride on there as an option.
No,
I'm like,
yeah, same. I thought we were doing the Wreck-It
Ralph.
Ralph, so I was like,
yeah, so maybe Rick Ralph
Checking
later. That's awesome. And the funny thing about Princess Bride, like I know we all love it, but like I think I have at least 3, maybe 4 copies of the movies are different because I lend them to people. It's like I don't care if I get them back. And also, you sometimes see a deal or you see a different version. Like I can't pass it up.
so you've got your whole corner that's The Princess Bride,
Yes.
right.
passing them out to people in the streets.
I have one of those things over my bed. It's a princess. All right.
Awesome.
Any other thoughts, highlights from any of the actors, the movie, the script?
Questions, comments, kumquats, anything?
I don't remember the ending like that. I just remember him like with the reading the book under the pillow.
I loved the ending in the script. I was commenting about that
Yeah,
when you were
sick.
reading it. It's so good.
It reminds me of one of my favorite
wish they'd
childhood
done
movies
that.
when I was a
That'd be so
kid.
cool.
I love things that go to the imaginary realm and showing like the kids having imagination, like Bridge to Terabithia, all Spider-Rick Chronicles, Never Ending Story. Like I love, like those are like my absolute favorite things. And maybe I'm too attached to the movie, but for me, I'm like, as you wish, and it just ends. To me, I'm like, that's so clean. That's so
perfect. It's perfect. It's literally a bookend, which I find hilarious. It opens with him talking to the kid and reading and opening the book, and it ends with him closing the book and getting ready to leave. And I'm like, it's a perfect bookend. It ends so well. But I do have to admit, having never known that this like fantasy option existed, where it's like, oh no, come join us in you know that your imagination is now blending into the real world. I'm like, number one, so never ending story, and I love it. That's a story for another time, but yeah, it's like, so number one, never ending story ending, love it. Number two, it's just a cool ending. It's like, I'm like that. I'm fantasy blending. It's like, oh, hey, what I'm reading is totally like blending into reality. I'd rather, focus on what I'm reading instead of whatever. And it's just, I don't know. I think it would have been a really cool thing. It also shows that like, it definitely had more of an impact on him than I think he expected. Because it's like, yeah, he's getting invested throughout the thing. And it's like, she doesn't get eaten at this time. What?
It almost,
get along with him.
It almost makes me want to maybe, I don't know, see if you could do maybe a Narnia script down the road, maybe next year or something.
I love Narnia, so we totally can. Like, I more love the old BBC version ones.
I know, that's what I'm talking about, because that's when I had to go to school in a different town and live with family friends for a bit before my family could move. That's where I first got introduced to Narnia, and I managed to find some of the Narnia videos in pawn shops since, and I've collected them, and I think we'd have fun with it.
I've always wanted to get an armoire, just hide away in it.
I wish they'd make the rest of the bloody movies.
Yeah. I don't know.
So yeah,
oh, sorry.
They keep rebooting it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's so great, kind of imagination-wise, other things like the world, but so yes, that's definitely a possibility for next year. I know next year we'll get into more
Vicki
TV
as
scripts.
the White Witch.
But
I don't know. I think I might have to fight her for Jadis. I'm sorry. if the White Witch is an option, any version, it's like
arm wrestle.
That was my queen. I'm sorry. That was. Yes, I know. Jesus allegory lion is the one.
Well, you might have to fight me, because I find the White Witch fascinating, and villains seem to be my strength. I love playing villains.
But you're number one, you're super pure, and number two, you kind of look like a grown-up version of
That's
Lucy
why it's
from
fun.
the BBC.
Oh, you know what? I could. To be fair, I could do Lucy. I would totally do Lucy.
I'm looking at you. I'm just going like, you said it, you brought it up, and now I'm like, I'm overlaying her in my mind over your face, and I can't unsee that now. So I'm thinking you might need to be Lucy.
See, that's how you get someone to do a role different from the one they want of yours, right there.
If we did something like Power Rangers or some action thing, I could totally do something fighting evil. I'm not good as pure evil, just a little bit chaotic.
Well, again,
meanwhile,
it's doing these roles of
delicious. She's so fun.
And us doing these roles or writing like good and evil, it doesn't make you bad that you have that.
I know, Jacob, but it's so fun to play around with different roles and see where the strengths are.
Exactly. That's what I agree. That's my point. Like, it's like, yeah, someone so innocent can take on the evil role. And I love those movies. Like, they've done a few more, I was going to say recently, of like the old lady being the villain. I'm like, yes. Like the unexpected things, go away from what people expect. Go ahead, Petra.
I was just going to say, it's like, I sometimes find it interesting that like kind of the way that when you're reading a script, I love reading scripts just because if there's a scene in a movie and it's like, what are they thinking? What's going through that character's head? What was what did they interpret off of the page to put on the screen? I love reading scripts for that reason. But I also find that like a script is very telling as far as the screenwriter, because you kind of understand in a weird, subtle way, depending on how they wrote it, who their favorite character is. You'll see like a little bit more love in a description. You'll see a little bit more breakdown, or whatever. And I'm just like, I love reading scripts for that reason too, because you can tell like this character was probably their favorite, or they really like writing the bad character or like the evil character, the one we're supposed to, and it just, I don't know. I love reading through it and just going like, it's a little bit of insight into like what they were thinking when they wrote it, which is just, it's a really cool thought. So
2 thoughts. One, do you think maybe it's just they're the ones that are most vivid or real to them? Like maybe they're afraid of this character and they see it and they feel it and they fear what they fear, so they know them well, but they're not favorite at all. Or, and then number 2, after that question, I was going to say, like, what do you think is the favorite character of the writer for Princess Bride?
Well, I think there's actually, it depends on who their favorite ends up being like over the course of the thing. Because there are writers that just like every character almost gets like the same treatment. Yeah. Like there's clearly no one favorite. There's no one given like a more or less whatever. Like this character isn't treated better. This character isn't given more insight or whatever. But I think the characters where you can see that, it's very telling, and it's not always the very obvious author self-insert character. It's not always even the main character. Sometimes it's like there's one character with like they get a little bit more light shown on them in some weird way. And sometimes it's only in the script that you would even find stuff like this out. As far as the Princess Bride for William Goldman, I know that when he was writing the novel, and again, this goes back to the ending, which I'm not going to spoil, but I do know that like Wesley is his second favorite character that he wrote in the novel, and Inigo is actually his first. And then he actually said if he had to pick a character, he would like to be like Vicini, but he was probably more like Fezzik. And I'm like, no offense, I've seen pictures of William Goldman. He ain't that strong, but it's a cool thought. But yeah, I don't know how much of that translated to the script, partially because he was adapting his own work and partially because he was adapting his own work. So I think when you see that and it's like, okay, how much of this is what was originally on the page that you put there? And then you have to translate that to, okay, this is how I wrote it and conceived it in this medium, and now I'm translating it to a new medium. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, do you go by who got the most flattering description? Do you go by who got the best lines? Do you go by who got the most interesting character arc? That's how you got to break it down. Because in this case, I'm actually not sure if his favorite from the book translates to the thing. I definitely think people got good lines and people got good scenes and good character development, but yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? Who do you think got the
I think every single actor did their best to become the favorite, whether they were in the script or not.
Right.
They just did so well. So each one of them is.
What's cool about this script and this movie too is like, as we found out when we were casting, because we've read a few scripts so far, is this movie is so epic, it's so fanciful, it takes all these awesome locations, all these awesome events and things are happening, and it's so few characters. This movie had one of the fewest, like the smallest casts compared to other movies we read.
For sure.
So it's like, just for other screenwriters and stuff out there, like you don't need to have an army of characters to be able to write an epic movie.
Well, with the exception of the crowd scenes. With the exception of the crowd scenes.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's it is the biggest crowd you have ever seen.
I just want to say I love your lines.
Out of the ones who, out of the ones that have lines, I think there's 19 characters. And normally, like the one that had the most was Marvin, and it had, I don't know, was it like 50 or something crazy? Had a lot of characters, Marvin's did. And then this one had the fewest. So it was pretty cool.
Did you guys have a favorite character in the movie?
I have many.
Yeah.
So that's a no.
Honestly, I think
I know they all.
Like I said, it's one of those things that like it's like a fine wine, right? And it just gets better with age. And I think that the characters that I like change as I watch it. And apparently at this juncture in my life, dude, Fezzik is just awesome, man. He's just like super funny. He's like really like tongue-in-cheek sarcastic. But then he's like a genuinely good guy, you know, and just like a bear. He's like a big old bear, you know. You just want to love him.
Yeah, that's so great about this movie that you can watch it over and over and like it every time. But
yeah.
and you have different emphasis, I think, on like who you like. Like in this case, yeah, I think Wesley was like the best character. And in other cases, you're like, yeah, I mean, Inigo to this day like still kind of touches my soul, but that's because, you know, sword fighting was a part of my, you know, sword fighting and history and stuff when I was growing up was a weird thing. And then, you know, weird relationships with parental figures, especially father figures in your life, and like losing people and stuff like that. I think you connect at different points maybe with different characters. So like if you're, you know, you're feeling strong and on top of the world and sassy and like, you know, come fight me, you might actually be more in line with like Wesley. Or if you're feeling, you know, this is my true love and almost like Romeo and Juliet phase, or even if you lose that and something else, you might be more in a Buttercup line. If you're like, you know, whatever. But I don't know, Inigo, you might have more of a connection if you've like recently had a loss, or, you know, you don't take anything seriously.
Well, and I think that comes through. I didn't know that when I watched the movie, but afterwards, years later, actually, I think it was just this year, seeing that he lost his father and that he really drew upon that for the script. It really comes across in some way when you're watching him. I think that's why he's so powerful. It means so much to him.
Yeah.
So.
And that was partially why I felt like I got the last sentence right, line read wrong, because it didn't fully have that emotion in it.
You want to do it? You want to do it again?
Yes.
Yeah, start from the top. Everybody start from the top.
And another note on that.
I think
another
we
note
did
on
a
that. I'm
lovely
sure
job this evening.
Well, thank you. Yeah, everyone definitely did.
Everyone did a lovely job this evening, and we should all be proud of ourselves.
Yes.
Round of applause for us. Yay!
Yay!
On the sword fighting scene there of when he feels like he's killing the cancer that took his father, like during rehearsals, he stabbed the other actor, I don't know his name, but in the leg, and so he went to the choreography coach. He's all, I think he's going to try and kill me. So I'm not going to do the stuff. I'm just going to try to defend myself. And so, yeah, because he was so into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry about the chat, Jacob. You can see that Petra, Angelina, and I are just going at it in the chat about Narnia.
I haven't been able to keep up. I'm looking here. You guys know when I'm looking at the chat because I'll be like off somewhere else.
Yeah.
Floating away.
Yeah, all the stories about my choreography are just great in this movie. Everything really just, I don't know, the backstory and history of almost anything is just really great in this movie. It's like, yes.
And back history, you said you have a sword, so you know how to use it.
Yeah.
It's not just decoration.
No.
Which would be fine.
We're all watching right now.
It's like, should it come down to it? Yeah, I could actually defend myself with this thing. It's mostly a blunt weapon, a blunt instrument at the moment. And if I get one of my giant mugs out, that's always been my offhand weapon when I was in a pirate household. So yeah, I learned that from our captain. He had a massive mug. It was basically a barrel with a handle. And he would use that when he got mostly at like Nasty Bone tournament. He would use that as his offhand weapon. He'd have like a club or a battle axe in one hand and his giant mug in the other hand, using it as offhand weapon. So if I grab one of my gigantic mugs, I probably would use that as an offhand weapon.
Wait, were you in a pirate household? Like, was this Muppet Treasure Island or something?
No,
yeah, you guys didn't know that, dude. For sure.
No, I was in Pirate Thunder. It's a Thunder household in the SCA. So it started.
Are you like Jim Hawkins in disguise or something, or Long John Silver or some weird
swashbuckling
thing or something?
In the SCA, man.
Yeah, no, I was the lady to our man-at-arms, but actually the Thunder household kind of generally started as Rolling Thunder, which was a motorcycle gang. So they were on their logo, they replaced the wheels of the motorcycle with circular thunderbolts or lightning bolts, and so then it started branching off into various factions. And so our particular household was Pirate Thunder, and then there was Brewing Thunder, which was a brewing household. They'd made excellent mead, actually very well done.
Well,
yeah, we had a lot of fun getting together.
Well, can we just call you Captain Smollett then and call it a day?
Buckland Stedman.
Excuse me, I am very clearly Benjamina Gunn. Thank you. I'm just kidding. Well, the Miss Piggy version anyway. I liked her.
Oh yeah. You know, we should read that one of these times someday. We should read Muppet Treasure Island just for kicks.
That's the
Dibs
challenge.
on Long John Silver, though. I'm sorry, Tim Curry. Oh, so good.
Oh,
yeah,
Tim
if
Curry,
you're doing
Long
it,
John
if you're doing
Silver.
it,
Oh yes.
just bear in mind that one's a musical. You have
So what? We know the songs. Anybody who watches the Muppets knows the songs. We can do it.
agree. Yeah,
That's
no,
the-
definitely.
That's just a message to me is like, I'm cast as action and descriptions for that film. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we're going to be bringing your daughter back
No,
for that
that's one
one.
of the things that I was gonna say is like when I was saying earlier about how the characters kind of grow on you. Like when I watched the movie earlier today, I was gonna say that my favorite character was Fezzik, but having done the table read, I would say that my new favorite character was Action Descriptions for sure. Awesome, great job.
All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I would just like to say I enjoyed being Fezzik. I always find it easier to play the masculine characters, but I also get a lot out of playing the feminine characters when I'm cast for those. It helps me to be a better, portray both sides of those like in socialization when I act them out in scripts. It's weird.
That's an awesome and also hard thing to do about these amazing scripts and amazing films. It's awesome to have this amazing role, but now you're like, everyone's going to compare it to this other character. There's no way. I mean, you're just different. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, no, here's the thing with a social disability, you don't know how to communicate or to act or to do certain things. But if you portray those things through characters and scripts, then you suddenly know how to exhibit those behaviors in real life. So portraying these things through characters and scripts helps me to learn the behaviors in real life. So this is actually very helpful.
And interestingly enough, both for like neurodiversity as well as speech therapy, they tend to use stuff like listen to like an audiobook or listen to a radio broadcast, or in some cases read a script. Literally, it gives them a script to follow as far as like this is how this character is acting, so this is what that means. And it's a really intriguing like educational tool, or like a way to kind of connect it to something that you wouldn't otherwise, because you can sit there and go, this means this, and it's like, unless it's super basic, like whatever, frowny faces or emotive expressions that small children understand before they start putting speech and linking up like thought processes and stuff like that with what they're trying to express. When you get a little bit older and you're able to put it together in a different way, it's like, okay, so this is of this and this is what this means, and if you read it like this, what is the character thinking, what are they trying to portray, what's going on in their head, can you express that? And it's interesting both for stuff like speech therapy, where you have a speech impediment and you listen to and mimic what someone else is saying or doing. So in that case, it's almost like you're kind of borrowing someone else's character or their voice.
It's like I can't learn if somebody tells me how to do something, but I can learn by doing. And the script reading is helping me to learn behaviors by practicing them and doing them.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating thing.
And getting empathy by being in that character, in that role.
And I know it sounds so weird to people who don't have the same thing, but it's an interesting way of learning, and it's really helping me a lot.
When you explain it makes sense.
That's all that really matters,
Yeah.
Nobody
I used to, when I first got into, were you?
No, you're fine.
Okay, sorry. When I first got into acting like 20 years ago, I guess, it's probably longer than that. I've probably been saying that for 10 years. No, anyways, I always said it's my therapy. Not that I don't know. I just, because it felt so much like there's things that maybe as a person you don't allow yourself, but as a character, and it's a part of that character, you get to play that out the way that they would. So it's getting to, it is putting yourself in another person's shoes, and to me, it felt more honest and real, because you're not holding back. You're letting yourself explore all of those facets of that character. So
it's permissive in a weird way, like
very permissive. It's not your own, right? You can't judge yourself because it's somebody else's part.
It's someone else, literally. Yeah. But it's getting to put on that skin, that costume of another person is kind of, it's both very freeing in a way, because it's like, this isn't anything like you, or maybe it's exactly like you, and it's not the part that gets out very often.
Yeah, you get to try it on and see if you want to adopt it, or.
And you can maybe see things about yourself through characters that you might not be able to see about yourself regularly, about like things you
absolutely
improve. and be
Like, why are
better
you
at-
connecting with this character versus that? It's like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have pictured myself in that role, but then you get it and you're like, oh, like you understand something. Where even in a table read, like, I love being able to read and follow along with, like, okay, the character is saying this, but they're thinking this, or like, this is what's going on in their head and this is what's coming
Yeah.
out of their mouth. And it's really fascinating to see that, because you're like, okay, you find stuff that you start identifying with or wanting to, you know,
Right.
yeah, you kind of identify
And
with it.
sometimes because of that, even because of that, sometimes it can make you aware of things that are going on in your life that maybe you've been blind to. You put up blinders on. I don't know if this is too much information, but for me, it's so many years ago, so it doesn't hurt.
You want me
But
to pause the live recording? Just kidding.
it doesn't matter. I played a role of an abused woman, and I started to recognize parts of that in my own relationship, I'll just say. So, and something that I didn't recognize before. So it helped open my eyes to something that I was like not going to look at. So
yeah.
I think it's an opportunity.
And quickly, it also, you know, when you're in the creative arts, whether it be writing or acting, you also, when people enjoy it, you also see value in yourself that you might not otherwise see were you not involved in the creative arts.
Yeah.
Like, doing these creative arts helps me see value in myself that I didn't otherwise see before I was involved in them.
Nice.
Just because through my own experience as a survivor of domestic abuse, I didn't really see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good that you're starting to recognize in yourself what we see in you. So that's
Oh,
Yes,
well, thank you. It's
absolutely.
taken a long time, but through my involvement in the creative arts over many, many years, I'm starting to see that.
therapeutic, really.
That's good.
And what were you
a lot
about to
of
say?
people- well, based on both of those things, kind of like people are like, what are the value of the arts? Or like they look down on movie making or cinema or writing or different things. It's like you guys all explained it right there. It's one, being to empathize and learn about other people and those relationships, learn things about yourself, be able to see things explore. I mean, you guys said it better than I did right there, but it's just like sometimes I even hear that argument and I didn't really have a good answer. But like hearing you guys right now, it's like, there's the answer right there. The
Yeah,
impact.
that empathy is huge too.
Yeah.
It
To be
is. It's
yourself in someone
cathartic,
else's
man. I
shoes.
mean, there's a lot of things that you experience in life that, like, you know, they're hard to talk about or they're hard to emote or process, you know, and then by being given a visual representation, like think about Big Fish last week, you know, and how, you know, saying goodbye to your father is such a heavy thing, but then you sit there and you watch it and like, it's a funny story and kids can get into it, you know, but once you've lived through it, I mean, it just impacts you and it sticks to you and it allows you to feel that again, you know. And I know when I lost my own father, it just makes you feel close again, you know. So
Well, like, and also
there's no
experience at different parts in your life. You have different experiences. You view things through a different lens. Your perspective is different. So something you watch as a kid, you connected with it. It made an impact on you. But then you watch it when you're older, and it's like
different.
You view it through a different lens. It hits you differently. Which is
Dude,
another
The
thing.
Wizard of Oz creeped me out when I watched as a kid, man.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop crying when I watched it, you know, last weekend or the other weekend, ready for the table read, man. Like, I mean, it's just a totally different movie, much more deep and impactful, you know. And that's how you know when you've done art is, you know, making something that transcends time and reality and really connects to humanity as a whole, for sure.
I think that statement is a good one for us to end on.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My connection's leaving, so.
So, and we all are. So again, this is awesome, you know, after talking with you guys after the table read. And thank you everyone for, you know, opening up and sharing and, you know.
And that was awesome. That was a good after table read for sure.
So, all right. Unless anyone else has anything else, I guess we say good night until next time.
And when we do the Star Wars one, we'll be able to
All right,
do
let's do it.
Star Trek. You
Star Trek. That's what I always say the wrong one.
can't
Live long and prosper.
Man, it's fake. All right.
Or what's
Have a good
Nanu
night,
Nanu?
all.
That's bye-bye.
As you wish.